Yo, what's up guys? So today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was in Five Nights at Freddy's and got harem, part 2. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Spiral Turtle 6. Link is in the description, and also subscribe to my channel, and like this video. Let's begin the video. Daddy Naruto kept snoring with half his body hanging over the edge of the couch. Hataru stood next to him, and shook his arm trying to get him to get up. Her daddy's alarm clock was going off, and it woke the girl up. She didn't know why he had the clock set for that time, but it must be important if he set it in the first place. You're gonna be late for whatever you set your clock for, she said, but just got more snoring. Here, let us try, Freddy gently pulling the girl back. The ghost took a deep breath, and positioned his head next to Naruto's ear. You're gonna be late, he yelled, making the boy fall off the couch, and land on his face. What? He yelled frantically, looking around, and saw the clock on the wall. Seeing it was 8:55. Oh Kami. I'm late for the Genin exams, he yelled, running into his room, and into his bathroom, heading straight for his shower. Hataru's sweat dropped along with both Freddy's floating behind her. I told him, she said. Naruto ran out of the house with Hataru on his back, the girl laughing in pure joy at the wind whipping by her face. The preteen with his arms under her legs to keep her up wasn't as joyous as the girl on his back. No, he was in pure panic mode. Normally the boy didn't give a damn about showing up on time, but if he did show up late this time, Irika would bar him from taking the exams. He saw the academy in the distance. Sighing in relief, he glanced at his watch, and almost fell over. His watch read 8:59, and Irika was always in the way before 8:30 since class started at 9 o'clock. Damn it! The boy cursed, and swung Hataru around so she was in his arms bridal style. Cover your head, Hataru-chan, he yelled over the wind passing them by. The girl did, as instructed, as Naruto closed his eyes in concentration. Freddy possessed her. He yelled to the former toy animatronic, who didn't even hesitate in flying into the girl, who gasped well, as a puff of smoke engulfed her and Naruto. Many of the villagers turned towards the puff of smoke, and saw Naruto shout out of it, taking off like a rocket through the air with a determined look in his eyes. What shocked the villagers most was the fact that Naruto was flying through the air at high speeds. At that moment the boy looked like a superhero saving a victim. Naruto paid them no mind, as he closed the distance between himself and the window drastically. He had started counting when he looked at his watch, and counted 5 seconds left at the moment. 5. He sped up his flight, becoming a blonde blur, making many of the villagers gasp, seeing how it was similar to that of the yellow flame. But that was impossible because Yandame never had a kid, right? 4. Naruto could feel his chakra draining as he flew closer to the window. The ability wasn't without its costs. 3. Sensei, something's heading towards the building, said a student sitting by the window of Irika's class. This statement made everybody look towards the window to see what appeared to be a yellow lightning bolt heading towards the class. 2. It's a bird, said Choji. Nah, it's a plane, said Kiba. No, it's Naruto, yelled the shocked Ino. 1. Many of them scattered when the bolt went through the window, sending shards of glass flying over the students' heads. Safe, they heard, and uncovered their heads to see Naruto standing there, panting, slightly clutching a brown bundle in his arms. They all stood transfixed. The boy gave a tired grin while looking down at the bundle in his arms. You alright, Hataru-chan? He asked, setting the girl on the ground. The class got a good look at the girl. She wore clothes similar to Naruto's Freddy clothes, as he dubbed it. Instead of Naruto's slightly untidy style, the girl was neater in appearance. She wore a white shirt with thin light brown stripes going down either arm with the cuffs folded. She had on a formal brown/orange jacket with the lapels being the same color as Naruto's, and a tail on it. Instead of formal pants, the girl had on a dark brown skirt, the same color as her lapel, stockings that went up her legs and disappeared under her skirt with formal shoes, and to top off her appearance she had 2 red circles on her cheeks, and a similar top hat as Naruto on her head, but it had a red bow going around it. The girls had one thought going through their minds, and that's kawaii. Daddy, that was awesome, the girl exclaimed with stars in her eyes. She would have continued, but a shout from the class interrupted her. Daddy? They even yelled at Irika. Naruto and Hataru looked towards the class with stoic looks on their faces. Yes, they said at the same time. How? When? Where? Were the questions the class yelled. Naruto and Hataru took a step back in surprise when the class surrounded them with awaiting eyes. Naruto's sweat dropped. She's my adopted daughter, he said, as the class owed. Why'd you adopt her? Asked Shikamaru, as some of the girls surrounded the girl, and started cooing at how cute the girl looked, saying the girl was blushing, and trying to sink into her top with all the attention directed at her. She's like me, was all Naruto said before gently moving the girls so he could get his daughter. After explaining to Irika about the situation, the man agreed to let the girl sit in, but she had to stay by Iruka until the written test was administered. Hataru was at first reluctant to do it, but after some coaxing from Naruto she agreed, and sat by the scarred well. He gave her some paper to draw on. "Alright, you may begin," and Iruka was cut off by the door opening, and a white-haired man stepped in the room. "Nice of you to join us," Mizuki said Iruka while his eyebrow twitched in annoyance. The man's sweat dropped while scratching the back of his head. "Sorry man," the guy said while walking towards the teacher's table. He saw the little girl sitting by the table, and drawing a picture, and it made him pause wondering who she was. Iruka saw his confusing look directed at the girl, so he decided to enlighten Naruto's daughter, he said, as Mizuki's eyes widened. "I see," he said, and sat down at the other end of the table well, as the class wrote their exams. Every now and again he sent a sideways glance at the little girl who had her tongue slightly poking out of her mouth. She gave her drawing all her concentration. Iruka watched over the exams, trying to find any cheats, but everyone seemed like they were doing okay. Now Iruka knew all his students were different, but few stood out, 9 to be precise. Sakura Haruno. He knew the girl was smart, extremely smart, but she lacked confidence ever since Satsuki told them all her true gender. She mostly kept to herself when it came to males. Hopefully the girl's sensei would break her of this. Shikamaru Nara, the heir to the Nara clan, which explained where his smarts came from, but that also meant he inherited the Nara male laziness. The boy was a natural tactician, being able to think 10 steps ahead of his opponent. All he needed was the drive to not be lazy, and he would be a force to be reckoned with. Choji Akamachi, heir to the Akamachi clan, a big bone boy who was sensitive about his weight, like many in his clan. The boy was a destructive force of nature if one got under his skin, like calling him fat for instance. The boy had a kind heart to his friends, and valued them, which was great, but could backfire on him if he has to fight them in the future. Hinata Hyuga, heiress to the Hyuga clan, known for their bloodline called the Byakugan, being able to see chakra coils of their points, and able to shut them off, a deadly fighting style in the hands of any other Hyuga, but not so much for the small meek Hyuga girl who lacked the confidence to strike her opponent. Kiba Inuzuka, deadly in close combat especially if his, Akamaru, joined the fight, but he was very arrogant, and saw many guys as a challenge. Well, he saw most girls as possible mates. Despite that, the boy was fiercely loyal to those he considered friends and allies. Shino Abraham, heir to the Abraham clan, specializing in the use of bugs as weapons. Much like the Inuzukas, the Abrahams valued their bugs as trusted allies in a fight. Nothing much he could say that was wrong with the boy except when he viewed all his classmates as possible threats in the future, and his reluctance to open up to others. Now came the 3 who could make huge waves in the ninja world. Ino Yamanaka, heiress to the Yamanaka clan, the girl had made leaps and bounds in the time since Satsuki made her announcement on her true gender. She was a shoo-in for the title of Kunoichi of the Year. The girl didn't chase after boys anymore, and instead put all her focus into becoming a true Kunoichi. The girl was fast and flexible in a fight. When she grew up she would be turning heads, and probably just be able to get info from a guy just by blowing a kiss to them. Satsuki Uchiha, heiress, and only member of the Uchiha clan. Not much had changed since before she revealed her true gender. She was top of the class, but now she put her heart and soul into getting perfect marks on anything. Not that Iruka was complaining, but it seemed odd that the girl all of a sudden wanted the top marks, but he assumed it was because her brother couldn't achieve said marks. Iruka hoped that the girl wouldn't become obsessed with killing her brother, and actually value the ties she had in the village, or ties in Naruto. And speaking of the blonde boy, he had the most shocking change of all. Naruto Uzumaki. He knew the boy had hidden potential, and no, he wasn't talking about it. No, he was talking about real potential. The boy could really become the Hokage one day if he gave it his all, but at the moment he blamed Kakashi for the boy's attitude to everything. The boy did things half-assed. Speaking of half-assed, the boy was halfway through when he put his feet on the table to relax while leaning back. Iruka sighed, dropping his head. If only the boy did something, then he wouldn't be dead last, and could be Rookie of the Year. He glanced at Hataru, who held the picture up, and smiled happily at what she drew. Hopefully the girl would open his eyes, and show him that doing things half-assed would get those close to him either injured or killed. He didn't want the boy to go through that. Alright, now let's move on to the taijutsu portion, said Iruka outside behind the building, standing by a circle with Mizuki standing in the middle of it. It works like this. You start out with 10, and have to keep that mark. If you land a hit on Mizuki you get a point. If he hits you lose 1 point. To pass you must have a minimum of 10 at the end of 10 minutes or push Mizuki out the ring. If you step out of the ring the exam is over. As per ever exams the highest achievement is 20, and 5 minutes 30 seconds held by Itachi. To achieve a perfect mark you have to break this record, explained Iruka. Alright, first up is Naruto ignored the fights that weren't worth his time, and instead zoned out wondering what he was going to do after the exams. He was brought out of his thoughts by a tug on his sleeve, making him look down to see Hataru with a smile on her face. Naruto double-eyed, and kneeled down to get a level with the girl. "What is Hataru-chan?" he asked, seeing the girl was clutching a paper to her chest. "I drew this for you," she said, blushing slightly, handing Naruto the piece of paper. The blonde took the paper from her with a grin, replacing his double-eye smile. The picture had two figures on it. One was smaller than the other, while the tallest one had whisker marks on its cheeks, and a top hat on both their heads. Naruto looked at Hataru, and patted her head. "Thanks, Hataru-chan, it's beautiful," he said, making the girl smile up at him. "Naruto, you're up," Irika said. "Can you hold on to this so long, Hataru-chan?" he asked, making the girl nod. Naruto got up to enter the ring, but stopped when Hataru grabbed his sleeve again, and pulled him down to her level. Naruto felt a pair of lips on his cheek, making him pause momentarily. "Good luck, daddy," said Hataru, smiling brightly. Naruto returned the smile with one of his own, as he nodded his head. Many of the girls allowed at the display. Naruto entered the ring, and stood across from Mizuki. He grabbed the front of his shirt, and gave it a tug, leaving him in his puppet clothing. "Begin," said Irika, as Mizuki threw a punch towards Naruto, who just leaned out of the way of it. When he was upright, the boy threw his own fist towards Mizuki, but it was half-assed, which Mizuki batted away, but didn't see the other fist flying, and socking him in the cheek. 11, said Irika. Mizuki recovered quickly, and tried to trip Naruto, but the boy jumped over it, which the white-haired was hoping for, and threw a fist at Naruto, who let the hit land in his stomach. 10. Naruto landed on his feet, not even fazed by the punch. He placed his hands in his pocket and Mizuki stared each other down. After 2 minutes of waiting, Mizuki got bored, and ran at Naruto, who smirked, and lifted his foot to kick the man who caught it, and caught the kick that followed that one. He tried to kick the boy who did the impossible, and stretched his arms, and wrapped it around Mizuki's legs, then stretched his arms past the shocked class, and wrapped around a tree. Naruto then proceeded to pull himself towards the tree. Mizuki was so shocked that he forgot to let go of Naruto's legs, and found himself falling from Naruto's action. Naruto flew past the other students, and kicked off Mizuki, making him land outside the circle, rolling. Naruto himself kept flying towards the tree, and flew around it, and headed towards the circle again, and landed in the circle, rolling past the middle, and stopped short of the edge of the circle, with him lying on his back eagle style, and staring at the clouds passing by. "Man, clouds are relaxing," he said. "You," said a voice next to him, to see Shikamaru lying there also watching the clouds float by. The whole class sweat dropped at the two while Naruto grabbed his top, and pulled it, changing to his Freddy clothes. "Oh, okay then," said Irika, getting over his shock at that, and just accepted that it was Naruto being his normal surprising self along with the rest of the class. Next, and final match in Satsuki. Satsuki walked into the ring, trampling on Naruto's stomach along the way, and smirked playfully at him. The blonde just grunted, and smirked back at her. "Nice panties, I'm seeing hearts." Literally, he said, making the girl's eyes widened in shock at him while she proceeded to stomp on his stomach. "Pervert," she yelled. Well, Naruto laughed, and grunted with every blow. After a half-hearted beating, Naruto found himself being dragged, and placed next to Hataru, who giggled at the grin on her father's face. "Daddy's funny," the girl said, crouching down, and poking Naruto in the cheek. Yes, he said. Naruto grabbed the girl, and spun her around so she was sitting on her lap. Hataru laughed, as she was flipped. When she was situated in Naruto's lap, she got comfortable by turning her body so she could lay her head on his chest, and still watch the matches. Satsuki stood across from Mizuki, who was nursing his red cheek. Of course he got a couple of hits, but Naruto's was the one that hurt the most of the day. "Ready?" Both nodded. "Then begin." Satsuki didn't waste any time, and ran at the white-haired man, who was shocked at the girl's speed. Every other time she wasn't this fast. Then again she wasn't as determined as she was before. Satsuki quickly sent out a punch towards the man, who learned his lesson, and dodged it, but didn't count on Satsuki giving him a kick to the side of the face with the back of her foot, sending the man stumbling towards the outside of the ring. But the girl grabbed his arm, and pulled him back into the ring, and aimed a hit towards his chin that connected, and left the man disorientated. The rest of the match was just Satsuki basically beating Mizuki to the ground, and this shocked everybody. But one thing they didn't take into account was that Mizuki was fighting the others all before her, since she was the last one. So the man was tired, fairly hurt, and lacked a considerable amount of chakra from Shino, and some of his chakra points were blocked by Hinata. So here Satsuki was almost beating the crap out of Mizuki, who at this point was too tired to give a crap anymore, and let the girl get her points. Although the girl wanted her perfect marks, and was running out of time fast, she made a last-ditch effort when she had only 10 seconds, and threw a punch so hard it sent Mizuki flying into the air. Mizuki landed on the ground outside the ring, making everybody gap at the girl's strength. Nobody said anything for a few seconds, then a voice spoke up. Can she be my mommy? Asked Hataru, looking up at Naruto, who was shell-shocked at that. The other students along with Irika's heads turned towards the girl when she said that, more like snapped towards her with wide eyes. Satsuki was doing a very good impression of a fish at that moment. She was shocked at what the girl said to Naruto. Not that the thought of raising a child with the boy never crossed her mind. I mean, come on, the girl wanted to revive her clan, not the council's way, and she sees the blonde as good genes to bring the Uchiha clan to its former glory. That was what she would say if it ever came out that the girl wanted to, for lack of better words, bang the blonde. Oh, how she would bang him the hell out of the boy, and take his seed, and end. Her mind started to go to the gutter. Let it never be said an Uchiha female wasn't a kinky closet pervert, especially the black-haired girl standing in the middle of the chalk-drawn ring with a blush on her face, and her legs pressed together while discreetly biting her bottom lip to keep her whimpering in. Luckily the class was focused on Hataru, and didn't see her at the moment. Why do you say that, Hataru-chan? Asked Naruto with a sweat drop. Because she's super strong and fast, said Hataru, sitting up with stars in her eyes. I always wanted a strong mommy, the girl said with a grin. Naruto smiled sadly at the girl, and held her a bit closer, but the girl wiggled out of his arms, and ran over to Satsuki, who almost fell over. Scratched that the girl did fall over. Glad she chose to wear skin-tight black shorts that day under her normal white skirt so none of the guys could get a peek at something they shouldn't. You're okay with it, right? Asked the girl, looking up at Satsuki, who didn't know what she was supposed to do at the moment, with puppy dog eyes. Hataru found herself being lifted up by the back of her jacket, and came face to face with the frowning Naruto. That's enough of this talk of mother nonsense, young lady, he said, wagging his finger at the girl who pouted. Satsuki-chan probably doesn't want to be in that kind of position. Pooh, she said, as Naruto tucked her under his arm, and walked towards the academy. Wait! They stopped, and looked back at Satsuki, who got up, and stomped over to Naruto, who turned around to face the girl. What? Don't you think I'd be a good mother? She glared at the boy, who took a step back in fear. I'll have you know I'd be an awesome mother. That's not what I... Too bad. The girl cut him off. I'm gonna be the mother of this child, and you can't do anything about it. With that said, the girl took the brown-haired child out from under Naruto's arm, and took her hand well, walking into the building with Naruto blinked in confusion. Can someone please tell me what just happened? He asked, not really expecting an answer. Had he looked back at the other students, he'd see a pair of eyes glaring holes into the Uchiha girl's back. You ruined my chance, bitch, thought the person while clenching her fist tightly. When the class got in, they were still shocked at what all happened outside, but put it out of their mind for now to focus on the exam. Hataru found herself sitting between her daddy and her self-proclaimed mommy with a huge grin on her face. On either side of her, her new parents had different facial expressions and auras coming off them. Naruto had a confused and slightly scared expression on his face at the aura the Uchiha heiress was unconsciously, or consciously, directing it at him. Said girl had a pissed-off look on her face, while her hands were in front of her mouth, and elbows on the table. Something she only did when she was contemplating murdering someone, most times her brother, but this time Naruto had a funny feeling it concerned him this time. Okay, on to the final exams, Irika said, breaking Satsuki and Naruto out of their respective funks. Naruto smiled warmly, and pushed Hataru on the swing he hadn't used in years. Said girl was squealing and laughing in happiness. The two just exited the classroom with Naruto's headband embedded in his clothes. He found that the minute he put the headband on his forehead it vanished, and the metal plate was embedded in his Freddy hat, and it was embedded in his puppet mask, while the insignia of the Leaf Village's symbol was. To get it off, all he had to do was grab the air around the insignia, and pull, then poof, the headband came off. Higher, daddy! The girl squealed in delight, making the blonde smile at her, complying with her request. Naruto was smiling on the outside, but he had a tornado of thoughts going on inside his brain at the moment. His best friend hadn't exited the school building yet, and the boy was worried since everybody else was outside already, meaning Irika kept the girl behind. For what he didn't know, he looked up towards the window to see Aoka standing there talking to Satsuki, who didn't show any facial expression at that moment, which was common for her, but it didn't help him, damn it. Naruto, the boy, gently stopped Hataru, and saw Mizuki standing behind the tree with a sad expression on his face. We need to talk, he said, making Naruto worry. And you're sure of this? Asked Naruto with a soft voice, as he and Mizuki sat in the park watching Hataru playing in a park which was relatively filled with children. Hataru was playing in the jungle gym with some other children playing with her. Unfortunately, it's all true, said Mizuki with a sad look on his face, looking down at the ground. Can something be done? Whispered Naruto, his hair covering his eyes. Mizuki perked his head up at that with a smile. I was hoping you'd ask, said Mizuki with a smile on his face while Naruto looked at him from the corner of his eyes. All you need to do is. Naruto listened intently to the instructor. Satsuki sat on her bed with her newly given headband held in her hands. The girl stared at the headband with a blank look on her face. She traced the insignia of the Konoha. She was disturbed from her thoughts by a knock on the door of her apartment. She stood up while placing her headband on her dresser table. The only person stupid enough to come at this time would be. She opened the door to see Naruto standing there with his double-eye smile. Hataru stood next to him, smiling brightly at the girl who frowned at Naruto. Hey Satsuki-chan/mommy, the two said at the same time. Satsuki blushed at the mommy part, but shook it off to regard Naruto with a what the hell look. Sorry to do this to you, but could you watch Hataru for the night? I got an assignment I gotta do for Mizuki-sensei, Naruto asked, opening his eyes and gazing at Satsuki with a smile. When his eyes looked at the girl's forehead, his face fell momentarily, but he quickly covered it with another double-eye smile. Even though he hid it quickly, the girl saw his sudden change in facial features, but didn't question it. Sure, I guess, Satsuki said, opening the door wider to allow the girl to run inside with an excited squeal. There are some snacks in the kitchen, the girl yelled over her shoulder. Thanks, mommy, Hataru yelled back, heading into the kitchen. With the young girl preoccupied at the moment, Satsuki took this chance to regard Naruto, who smiled over the girl's shoulder at his passing daughter. Alright Naruto, what's going on? She asked with a frown on her face. She crossed her arms under her upais, making Naruto glance down at them for a quick second, and noticed that the girl wore a slightly shallow v-neck top that showed off some of her cleavage, making Naruto's eyes almost pop out of his eye sockets, and blood gushed out of his nose. Satsuki raised a brow at his reaction, and followed his eyes to see the boy was looking at her cleavage. The girl gave a devious smirk, and brought her arms up slightly to make her boobs jump a bit. Naruto had to restrain himself from blasting back with a nosebleed. Eyes up here, dobe, she said, making Naruto redirect his vision to look at the girl in the eyes with a pink blush on his face, and blocking his nose. Satsuki smirked up the boy with the same devious smirk, and a twinkle in her eyes, making Naruto gulp. I gotta get out here, he thought, backing up, which the girl noticed, and followed him till his back hit the railing behind him. You still didn't tell me what's going on, Naruto-kun, she said in a seductive voice, wanting the boy to spill his guts. Damn it, I gotta move now, Naruto thought, seeing the girl an inch from standing up against him. I gotta go, he yelled, taking off into the air, and flying away, making some air pick up around Satsuki, who covered her eyes. When she opened her eyes, she watched Naruto's form flying away into the distance. Never heard of a hero flying away from the girl, she mumbled, and turned around when she heard a smash inside her apartment. Mommy, I broke the jar, called Hataru, making Satsuki sigh well, rubbing her temples. Why me? She grumbled, and walked into the apartment while closing and locking the door behind her. Naruto sped off towards the Hokage tower, gripping his nose to stop the bleeding. Damn it, why won't it stop? The boy yelled while Freddy flew next to him, laughing his ass off. Stop laughing at me, Naruto yelled at the brown-haired ghost, who at this point was clutching his sides. I'm sorry, but she totally owns you, Freddy chuckled, who wiped a stray tear away. Naruto just grumbled well, his nose has stopped bleeding, and wiping any remaining blood away. His expression became serious as he got near the Hokage tower. Alright, time to get serious, he thought, pulling his top so his Freddy clothes were on. Satsuki sat on the couch with Hataru. The girls had a blanket over their knees while they were watching a movie, while a bowl of popcorn in Hataru's lap. They were currently watching Frozen by choice of the brown-haired girl, who had heard of it from the other children in the park, and wanted to know what the movie was about, and currently she was really enjoying the movie. Satsuki had heard of the movie in passing, but never gave it any thought to focus on her training to become a ninja with the highest marks ever. Let it go, can't hold it back anymore. Currently Elsa was doing her solo, one of the things that brought fame to the movie. Hataru smiled brightly, nodding her head to the beat of the song, and reading the lyrics. Satsuki had rented the one with lyrics. Soon the girl started singing along, shocking the older female beside her. Let it go, turn away, and slammed the door. The girl wasn't singing very loud, but it was just loud enough for Satsuki to hear her. I don't care what they're going to say, let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. Satsuki's eyes widened at the voice that Hataru had. She sounded what Satsuki thought an angel would sound like. She had a feeling of peace and calm listening to the girl sing. It reminded her of when her own mother used to sing songs to her so she could fall asleep. The 9-year-old was leaning against the Uchiha heiress, who was still in a state of bliss. It's funny how some distance makes everything seem small, and fear that once controlled me can't get to me at all. The little girl wrapped her arms around Satsuki, basking in the older girl's warmth, who unconsciously wrapped an arm around her, pulling her closer to her body. It's time to see what I can do, to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me, I'm free. Let it go, let it go. I am one with the wind and sky. Let it go, let it go. You'll never see me cry. Satsuki couldn't explain the feels she felt at that moment. It soothed her, took her back to a peaceful time, like when her mother used to make cookies for her, when her brother used to come home and train or play with her. She even remembered the time her hard ass of a father was proud of her for the first time. When they started the movie, she had to admit she was content with the little 9-year-old sitting next to her. But now she felt like she was in utopia. Well, the cause of it was snuggling into her side with, and the little girl's head leaning against the side of Satsuki's right boob, using it as a pillow. Here I stand, and here I'll stay. Let the storm rage on. My power flurries through the air into the ground. My soul is spiraling in frozen fractals all around, and one thought crystallizes like an icy blast. I'm never going back. The past is in the past. As Elsa's tone got higher, Hataru's tone got softer. She smiled while looking up at Satsuki, who smiled down at her well, grabbing her in a warm hug, and stroking her hair like a mother would her child. So sort of the same concept here. Let it go, and I'll rise like the break of dawn. Let it go, that perfect girl is gone. Here I stand, in the light of day. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. As the song ended, and the scene went on, the two girls were wrapped up in a hug, with Satsuki coming down from the high of happiness she felt at listening to the girl sing. How did she do that? Thought Satsuki, letting Hataru rest her head on her still developing bosom. The Uchiha heiress grabbed the remote and stopped the movie when she heard the sounds of light snoring coming from the girl. Satsuki made herself comfortable by lying down on her back so the girl could continue resting on her bosom. She pulled the blanket over them with a good look up at the ceiling, and stroked the girl's brown hair. I'm gonna have to talk to Naruto, was her last thought. Well, her eyelids got heavy, and didn't fight sleep, rather letting it claim her. Had Satsuki looked out of her window, she'd have seen several figures jumping across the rooftops. Many of the ninja forces were in a panic at the moment. Every ninja that was in the ranks of Chunin, Jounin, and Anbu were headed towards the Hokage to report to the old Kage. We find the Kage standing on top of the Hokage building with the ninjas standing before him. Well, he himself was clad in his normal Hokage's robes. Hokage-sama, why have you called us here? Asked a random Jounin. The forbidden scroll has been stolen, said the third, not even beating around the bush. Many scratched at all of the ninja there. Gasp. Who stole it? Asked another Jounin. Naruto, said the third with a sigh, making the ninja gasp again. But how did he get past all the defenses? Asked a bearded Jounin who was smoking a cigarette. That is not important, said the Hokage sternly. He had a small nosebleed that he hid behind his closed fist while pretending to cough. I want everybody to spread out and search the village, and leave no place unchecked. Anybody who is not here at the moment who holds the rank of Jounin or Chunin, I want some of you to go call them, and quickly fill them in on the matter. Lastly, I want Naruto brought in alive. If you are found to have killed him, you will be charged with treason, and sentenced to death. Do I make myself clear? Hi, Hokage-sama. With that, all the ninja left, as quickly as they came. The third sighed while looking at the night sky. Why did you do this, Naruto? After everything, what possessed you to do this? He thought. He used that just, didn't he? Said Kakashi, still standing in front of the third while reading his book. I should make that an S-ranked. The third, still looking at the night sky. Kakashi giggled perversely while flipping the page of his book. How'd he come across that? Let's just say that Naruto grabbed the wrong book when he stayed over at my house for tutoring, and Kakashi finally vanished in a shushin. Iruka jumped from rooftop to rooftop looking for something desperately. He headed in one direction, looking from house to house, until he came to a very low-key house with a picket fence, and some flowers growing in the front of the house. Quickly jumping over the fence, Iruka knocked frantically on the door, trying to wake the occupants of the house. Mizuki! Mizuki! Wake up! Iruka yelled frantically, hearing footsteps running to the front door. Mizuki opened the door clad in a pair of sleeping shorts, and a tired look on his face. Iruka? It's 2 in the morning. What are you doing? He asked with a yawn. I'm sorry, but there's been an incident, Iruka said, taking a deep breath, the fatigue from running all the way there finally taking effect. What happened? Asked someone behind Mizuki, a woman with forest green hair that was tied in a fan ponytail with a stray bang covering her one eye, and chocolate brown colored eyes. She wore a white top that went down to her knees with long legs, a shapely rump, and a big bust. Hey Keiko, said Iruka after getting his breathing under control. Naruto stole the forbidden scroll. Both looked shocked at hearing that bit of information. Naruto asked Keiko. Yes, we don't know why, but we need to find him, said Iruka. I need your help, Mizuki. Alright, let me just get changed, said the white-haired man, as Iruka waited outside for him. I'm going with Keiko. But Mizuki shook his head. No, I need you to stay here, Kei. I don't think Naruto would have done this on his own. So that means someone is either pulling the strings from behind the scenes or he had help, said Mizuki, putting on his uniform. But I may, argued the green-haired woman. A retired Joun encountered Mizuki grabbing his big Fuma shuriken on the wall, and strapped it to his back after the mission to Iwa. The Hokage gave you specific orders to refrain from any mission, and this one obviously has someone behind the scenes pulled the strings. But I can still. Mizuki grabbed her chin, and kissed her. I know you're still able to kick ass, but I don't want you to get hurt, said Mizuki after he pulled away. Don't worry, I'll be back before you know it, he said with a smile. Okay, said Keiko with a sigh, just please be careful. And come back to me, she said worriedly, making Mizuki smile. He turned towards Irika, who was eager to get going. Let's go. With that they both leapt away to find the blonde preteen. Keiko watched them jump away with worried eyes. Please be safe, she thought, well, closing the door when their forms vanished into the fray of ninjas on the same mission as them. Naruto stood in the middle of a clearing in the woods outside of the village he called home. A huge scroll was under his right arm, as he leaned on it for support, and a serious expression on his face. Where is Mizuki-sensei? He thought, glancing left and right. This is where he told me to meet him, right? I got a bad feeling, said Freddy, looking every which way. I think we got played, Naruto. No, I trust Mizuki-sensei. He wouldn't lie to me, said Naruto. But he could feel a part of him making sure all his senses were open. The two stood in silence for what seemed like hours to them, but was in fact a few minutes. Both were put on edge at the eerie quietness of the forest. So it wasn't uncalled for when Naruto threw shuriken towards the sound of a twig snapping. Wow! Watch it! Said someone behind the bushes, making Naruto relax at the voice. Mizuki stepped out from behind the bushes. Oh, Mizuki-sensei, said Naruto, was relaxing his stance, even though a part of him kept yelling to stay alert. Ah, good, I see you have the scroll, Naruto, said Mizuki, smiling at the boy who gave him a double-eye smile. Yep, answered Naruto, well, lifting the scroll up, and placing it under his arm. I got it. Does this mean Satsuki-chan is safe now? Oh, yes, she's safe the minute you hand over the scroll, said Mizuki with an eager expression on his face. Well, Naruto stepped forward to hand the scroll over. Stop, Naruto! Both of them turned to look towards one of the trees, to see Irika standing there winded, and in a panic. Irika-sensei? Said a shocked Naruto. Mizuki, how could you do this? The Scar yelled at his friend, who frowned at the interruption. I didn't foresee this, thought his frown deepening, but after a moment it was replaced with a smirk. I know. I'm glad you're here, said Mizuki with an evil smirk on his face. Now we can both tell Naruto-kun why he's hated in this village. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. What did you say? You heard me, Naruto-kun, said Mizuki, directed his smirk at Naruto. You see, what Irika and many people in this village didn't tell you was that you— Stop, Mizuki! Yelled Irika desperately. Contain. Stop it! It's forbidden! The nine-tailed fox, said Mizuki. As Naruto's face became pale, the boy felt something shattering inside him. You are the Kyuubi no Kitsune, Mizuki said, smirking wider, digging the knife in deeper. He started walking towards Naruto nonchalantly while reaching out for the scroll. If you hand over the scroll, I'll end your misery. Mizuki had to jump back from some kunai that was embedded into the ground where he previously was. Irika jumped down, and stood in front of a shell, shocking Naruto protectively with a kunai in hand. Mizuki just continued to smirk, not in the least bit surprised that Irika attacked him. Oh? What's this, protecting the demon? Naruto flinched at the name many of the villagers called him. You can stop lying now, Irika. Sarutobi isn't watch anymore. Shut up, Mizuki! Yelled Irika. Come on, Irika, you can tell him the truth. About how deep down you secretly hate his guts for being the thing that killed your parents. I said shut up. Yelled Irika, throwing more kunai at Mizuki, who just caught one, and deflected the others. Irika-sensei hates, thought Naruto. Looked up at the brown-haired man who had a furious expression on his face, a look that was directed at Mizuki. You're right, I do hate the Kyuubi. The boys perked up at that. But that's the thing, I may hate the Kyuubi, but I don't hate Naruto, Irika said with conviction in his voice, shocking Naruto. Touching, said Mizuki. Then Irika found himself impaled by many kunai, but none hit any vital spots, making the man fall backwards in Naruto's arms, who looked frantic. Irika-sensei, the boy yelled. But I have wasted enough time here, Mizuki said, walking towards the scroll again, but had to once again jump away from a projectile. This time it was a Fuma shuriken. Everybody looked up at the tree, two with looks of hope, and one with a look of annoyance, to see another Mizuki standing there with his hand outstretched from throwing the weapon. Hey, am I late? He asked with a grin. Mizuki? Naruto and Irika yelled, looking between the two Mizukis, not believing their eyes. Hey, who's this handsome devil? Said Mizuki, smirking at his double, who still had a frown. Your presence here has delayed me considerably, said the fake Mizuki, grabbing the Fuma shuriken. I'll have to dispose of all of you. Run, Naruto! Yelled a pained Irika, making the boy jump in surprise. But Irika-sensei, he tried to argue. Go, Naruto! Take the scroll with you back to the village, Mizuki, and I will hold him off to buy you time, said Irika, standing up and pulling the kunai out, with hisses of pain, letting them drop to the floor. But Irika blocked shuriken that were headed towards the boy. Quickly, Naruto doesn't argue. Go! The boy finally nodded, and took off with the scroll under his arm. Now that wasn't very nice, said the fake Mizuki with an evil chuckle. If you want to get to that kid, you're gonna have to go through us, said Mizuki, smirking his last Fuma shuriken in his hand. With pleasure, the boy said. The fake Mizuki was licking his kunai. Naruto ran through the forest, clutching the scroll close to his chest. He was panting slightly while running so long. Why am I so far from the village? The boy thought. And where's Freddy? The animatronic had vanished the minute the fake Mizuki stabbed Irika with so many kunai. Naruto! The boy looked back to see Irika with blood from his opened wounds. Irika-sensei! Naruto stopped running to regard the panting man. Where's Mizuki-sensei? The fake killed him, Naruto said to Irika, making Naruto's eyes widen in shock. Wah! Quickly give me the scroll, Irika said frantically. I'll destroy it so the fake can't get his hands on it. Naruto stepped back at what? But this belongs to the village. You can't destroy it, Irika-sensei. It's the only way, Irika said, slight irritation seeping into his voice. Now give it to him. Naruto clutched the scroll tighter to his body. No. I won't let you, sensei, or not. This belongs to the village. It's a treasure the village holds dear, he yelled. Boy, you're getting on my last nerve, said Irika with a pissed look on his face. If you won't give me the scroll, I'll just take it. Irika lunged at him with a kunai, but was blocked by Mizuki, who struggled against the strength of Irika. Back off. Mizuki kicked Irika in the stomach, making him turn into mud. Mizuki-sensei, said a shocked Naruto, made the man turn around and regard the boy with a smile. Are you okay? He asked, looking over at him to make sure the genin was okay. I'm fine, said Naruto, and caught a glimpse of something flying towards them. Look out! Naruto shouted, making Mizuki turn around only to get impaled by a glowing sword. The white-haired spat up blood onto the ground below him while crumbling to his knees. Mizuki-sensei! Yelled Naruto, grabbing the sword and pulling it out of the left side of his chest. You're gonna be fine. Pity, said Irika. Walked out of the tree line, his injuries not even bothering him. I gave him a chance to join me, but the idiot said no, Irika chuckling. Shut up, growled Naruto, his bangs shadowing his eyes. Oh? Did I strike a nerve? Said Irika, smirking at Naruto. I said shut up. Naruto looked up, his eye sockets were blank, save for the shining white dots in the middle of them. Well, the animatronic bear from so long ago made another appearance, only this time he looked more decrepit. He was hunched over looking at the small, to him, man. That same smile that struck fear into the council members before made the man step back in shock. The animatronic opened its mouth along with Naruto, and then it screamed. But it was a demented child's wail that shocked the very ground under their feet, and shook the trees around them. The scream was so loud it caused the man to cover his ears in pain. I'll kill you, Naruto yelled, disappearing in a burst of speed heading towards the fake, who quickly brought up his arms to block the punch aimed for him, but didn't count on the animatronic, who was now even more real than it was 5 years ago, throwing a right hook which caught the man's chin, and sent him flying away. As much as I would like to continue fighting, the fake got up while the air around him rippled, and fell to show a white-skinned man with long black hair, slitted snake-like eyes, and purple marks around his eyes. I can't risk the old monkey finding me, and finishing what he couldn't do so long ago, the man chuckled. Keep the scroll, Naruto-kun, I don't really need it at the moment. The man picked up the glowing sword, and swallowed it whole. Know this. I'll be watching you. He started sinking into the ground, as Naruto ran towards his retreating form, and aimed a punch at the ground where the man vanished. He screamed towards the sky while he fell to his knees, the animatronic vanishing into a brown mist. Naruto's eyes turned back to the same cerulean blue he was known for. A painful cough reminded him of the current situation, making him turn around and run towards Mizuki, who had coughed up more blood. Mizuki-sensei, don't worry, you'll be fine, Naruto said with tears in his eyes. The man smiled painfully at the boy, with his eyes starting to turn pale. No, Naruto, I don't think I am. It took all the man's energy just to talk. Don't speak like that, Naruto yelled, his tears running down his cheeks. I'm gonna get you to the old man, he'll know what to do. Naruto tried to move, but stopped when he grunted in pain. Stop, Naruto. The boy stopped trying to move the man, and instead took off his jacket to hold against the man's chest wound, trying to stop the blood. Listen, Naruto, the man said, reaching into his pocket. I know I'm not going to make it, so I need you to do something for me. He withdrew his hand holding a velvet box. I need you to give this man coughing up more blood. I need you to give this to someone. Mizuki took a deep breath. Her name's Keiko Yumi. Tell her I'm sorry for not keeping my promise, and that I want her to live a full life. Mizuki smiled up at the sky with his fading eyes. He could feel his soul leaving his body, but had to say a few more things before he departed from this world. Naruto, he looked at the crying child with a soft smile on his lips. I hated you, but Keiko changed my views on that. I want you to watch over her, protect her. Mizuki coughed. More blood. You're not the Kyuubi, you're its jailer. And you're protecting this village by being alive, so keep living. Change this village, no, change the whole Shinobi Nation's views of how life should be lived. By this point, Naruto had stopped, pushed on the wound, his jacket soaked in Mizuki's blood. Bring peace to this world. With that, the small flicker of life faded from Mizuki's eyes, while he smiled. Mizuki-sensei, Naruto called without getting a response from the man. Come on, Mizuki-sensei, stop playing. He gave an unbelieving chuckle. Mizuki-sensei, yelled the boy, grabbing the dead Chunin's shoulders, and shook him. No, 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 the boy yelled, lifting his head to the sky, letting out a wail of despair. No, no, the blonde let his head drop on Mizuki's unmoving chest, crying his heart out while gripping the vest tightly. Mizuki's hand opened, letting the box tumble out of it, and popped open to show a sparkling diamond ring which shone under the moonlight. Iruka entered the clearing with the Hokage, accompanied by many ninjas. Among them was Kakashi, who pushed his way to the front to reach Naruto, who didn't acknowledge their presence. Kakashi grabbed Naruto by the shoulder, making him look up to see his Nissan with a sad look in his eye. The boy didn't say anything, he just flung himself into the older man's chest, and wept his heart out. Kakashi hugged the boy back well, stroking his back soothingly to comfort the boy. The third just signaled the Anbu to retrieve the scroll, and told the other ninja to head home, which many did with heavy hearts at losing one of their own. Iruka saw a velvet box on the floor, and saw the ring inside, the same ring Mizuki had bought by saving up a lot of his income from A rank and B rank missions he took on. The same ring he showed Iruka, telling him how he was going to surprise Keiko by asking her to marry him after 3 years of being a couple. Iruka couldn't place it, but he knew Mizuki wanted Naruto to give this to the woman, so he put it in his pocket to give to Naruto later. He looked towards the sky, well, tears of pure sadness falling from his eyes. I don't know what you told Naruto, Mizuki, but I hope it opens his eyes to how this world works, he thought, mourning the death of his fallen comrade and friend. I'm sorry, Keiko, he thought, already hearing the wails from the woman once she received the news. Naruto stood among the mourners of Mizuki's funeral well, and the rain poured down on them all. A picture of the man's face was behind a coffin which held the corpse of his former teacher, with many floors placed on or around it. The boy was clad in black clothes, as per tradition for someone's funeral. Next to him was a crying Hataru, who held his hand, also clad in black clothing. The girl may not have known the man, but she could feel the sad atmosphere in the graveyard, and honestly it scared her. On Naruto's other side stood Satsuki, who had her head down in sadness. Tears didn't escape her eyes, but a sad expression was present on her face. Said boy with a blank look on his face while he kept staring forward at the green-haired woman who stood in the front crying on the shoulder of Iruka, who was trying to comfort her. The third stepped up to the front, and stepped onto the slightly raised platform. Even he was clad in black clothes. Before we send Mizuki off, would anybody like to say some words? He asked the crowd. I wish everybody would look back to see Naruto lifting his hand up. Many of the people parted, as Naruto gently took his hand away from Hataru, who moved over to Satsuki, who wrapped the girl in a hug. Naruto walked to the front with the same blank face as before. When he got to the front, he stepped up onto the platform, and looked out over the people present. He saw many familiar faces of his classmates there watching him along with, and alike. Naruto took a deep breath, and let it out before he started to speak. Mizuki-sensei, what can I say? He was always a great teacher, always helping those who struggled with something, whether it be schoolwork, or even if it was a trivial thing like what to have for lunch. Some people chuckled sadly at that. I knew Mizuki-sensei for 3 years. The minute he stepped in class, I thought he would treat me like many others in the village, but he proved me wrong when he smiled at me, and even offered to buy me lunch when I forgot mine. If I ever had a problem, I knew I could come to Mizuki-sensei to help me. Some tears leaked out of Naruto's eyes. When Orochimaru tried to kill me to take the forbidden scroll, Iruka-sensei and Mizuki-sensei stood up to him, and fought him so I could make it back to the village to bring reinforcements, but the snake had been able to sneak away from them. When he cornered me, and almost killed me, Mizuki-sensei protected me. He instantly checked to make sure I was okay. Naruto choked back a sob. He didn't see the sword Orochimaru threw towards his back, and then impaled him. Naruto turned away for a second to collect himself. Sarutobi placed a hand on his shoulder, giving him a comforting squeeze. When he got a better control of his emotions, he continued his speech. As I watched the light fade from his eyes, he told me to tell his girlfriend he's sorry that he couldn't keep his promise. Keiko cried harder at that while Iruka turned his body so he could hug her in comfort. If he were here, I'm sure he would say that he loves you, and he'd want you to live your life to the fullest. That's all I have to say. With that, he walked off the platform, and back to his position next to Satsuki, who was still comforting a crying Hataru. With this we send off Mizuki to Kami so he can find peace in the afterlife. With that said, the third clasped his hands together in the snake's sign, making a dome of earth come up and close around the coffin, and pull it towards the earth. The rain pelted down on the mourners as they watched the coffin vanish into the earth. When the coffin was underground, and the hole covered up, everybody took a moment of silence to remember the deceased. After a moment they all slowly filed out of the graveyard. The rain had stopped, and the clouds were slowly dispersing to show the blue sky hidden behind it. Naruto and Hataru stayed behind so he could talk to Keiko, who was standing in front of the grave of her deceased boyfriend. When everybody had filed out, Naruto walked forward with Hataru in his arms. The girl had cried herself to sleep. Naruto stood next to the green-haired woman who was staring at the ground, tears still leaking from her eyes. "I'm sorry for your loss," he finally said, while Keiko just kept staring at the headstone. They relapsed in silence again, and they both stared at the headstone. "Mizuki-sensei told me to give you this," Naruto said, reaching into his pocket, balancing Hataru on his hip while keeping her up with his one arm. Keiko looked over to see the boy holding out the velvet box with the ring in it, making her gasp in shock and sadness. She reached out with a trembling hand, and hesitantly grasped the box. When it was out of Naruto's hands, she held it in front of her, staring at it with wide eyes, tears still pouring down her cheeks. "If you asked me, Mizuki-sensei will forever be alive, not just in that ring, but in your heart," said the blind, turning around to go home. "Wait!" Naruto stopped, and turned around to see Keiko bowing to him, shocking him. "Thank you, Naruto-san. I am forever in your debt for giving this to me," the woman said. That's fine, you don't have to." "No, I mean it," she said, standing up straight with a smile on her face. "Mizuki always spoke fondly of you. He said you'd go place in life, and he was proud to have taught you." The woman walked forward till she was stand in front of the blonde. "I would like it if you made his dreams for you a reality, and make huge waves in this world." She bent down and kissed his forehead. "I'll be rooting for you, Naruto-san," she said, smiling, then turned around to mourn her lost lover, slipping the ring on her ring finger. Naruto blinked in shock, watching the woman kneel by the grave, and bowing her head in prayer. Hataru's shifting made him remember that the girl was probably freezing if her shivering was anything to go by. Leaving the graveyard, he had a determined look in his eyes while looking at the Hokage monument. "I swear on my Mizuki-sensei, I won't just become Hokage. I'll change this world for the better," he thought, tightening his hold on Hataru, holding her closer to his body to keep her warm. The third stood in his office looking out of the window, watching the sun rise in the distance with a cup of coffee in his hand. "Today is the day," he thought while taking a sip of his coffee. It had been 5 days since the Forbidden Scroll incident, as it has been dubbed. "Had it not been for Freddy, I wouldn't have known where to find them," he thought, grateful to the former animatronic. How did the third know this? Well, when Freddy left Naruto, he flew straight to the Hokage Tower, and without hesitation possessed the third, which oddly enough didn't give him any power-ups, as Hataru dubs it. All the third was able to do was see Freddy for a certain amount of time, which was all the time the ghost needed to tell the old Kage where Naruto and the others were located. They should be arriving soon, thought the third while drinking the last of his coffee. Naruto sat at his desk riding back on his chair, and reading a book on sealing. It's been 5 days since Mizuki's funeral, and the blonde has been slowly getting used to not seeing one of the people who believed in him anymore. It's been a slow process for the boy to get used to, but with the help of his adoptive daughter, and his friends, his friend, he was able to slowly get used to it. Hataru sat down next to Naruto reading a book that spoke of the history of Konoha. One thing Naruto and Satsuki found about Hataru was that the girl had a photographic memory to the point she can glance at something, and it will remain present afterwards. They took advantage of this by starting the girls teaching early. This was done by Satsuki, obviously. Not that Naruto was an idiot, but he was more of a hands-on teacher, so they decided to leave the girls' physical fitness to the Uzumaki. Naruto turned a page in his book, as the door to the class opened to reveal Satsuki, who wore her usual stoic expression. "Nice of you to join us," said Naruto, not looking up from his book, making Satsuki frown at his attitude. She walked past him while grabbing his book, making the blonde blink in surprise at seeing his reading material vanish from his sight. He turned his head to see the girl placing the book between her upayas. The book was a pocket version, so it was relatively small. The look on her face reading, "Try getting it, I dare you." Well, that wasn't nice. Satsuki-chan, Naruto pouted in her direction, making the girl blush, and turned her face to hide the blush. Naruto just shrugged, pulling a book from under his top hat, making the girl's mouth fall open in shock. That was a limited edition that had the secret to a bigger and better explosive tag. "I mean, come on, Satsuki-chan, bigger, boom!" exclaimed like a child happy about Christmas being the next day, making Satsuki's eye twitch in annoyance. Now why is Satsuki holding the poor book hostage instead of reading it herself? Well, that's easy. The girl never got the grasp of seals, no matter how hard Naruto tried to teach her about it. She preferred to hit hard and fast instead of drawing a seal on the ground, and waiting for it to activate. She muttered while sitting next to Hataru, who stopped her reading to hug her mommy, who in turn hugged her back. "Hello Hataru-chan," she said, stroking the girl's hair. The little girl was the only person who got such an affectionate honorific out loud. "Hey Ka-san," the girl said happily, pulling away from the black-haired girl. She grabbed her book, and opened it to the page she was just reading, but Satsuki placed a hand on the girl, making her close the book. Hataru knew this was her Ka-san telling her she wanted the girl to tell her what she knew, and understood what she had just read. "Go," Satsuki said, taking the book away from the girl. "Okay." And so the girl started reciting everything she had just read to Satsuki, who just nodded her head every now and again. Naruto listened in on the girl's explanation of the village's past. This wasn't the first time he listened to the girl recite something she had just read. She would have moments where she forgot how to pronounce a word, but Satsuki would supply her with the proper pronunciation. And that's how the first Hokage beat Madara Uchiha. The girl finished with a big smile on her face. Satsuki smiled back, patting the girl's head. That particular part of history wasn't her favorite part. It made her clan look like a bunch of power-hunger ego maniacs. "Good Hataru-chan," the older female said while giving the girl an affectionate kiss on the forehead. "But you must work on your pronunciation." The girl nodded her head, and turned back to her book to continue reading. Naruto glanced over to the black-haired girl, and double-eye smiled. "Don't I also get a kiss, Satsuki-chan?" He made a kissing face at the girl, making her face turn beet red from embarrassment. "And anger, I also read a lot, you know." Wham! Bam! Naruto found his head planted to the table in front of him with a bump, and swirls coming out of his head. "Baka," the girl said, blowing a stray bang out of her eyes. Soon other children started filing into the room, and taking their seats, all of them excited at the fact they were genin. Some of them started chatting among themselves, hoping to be on the same teams as their friends. This is what Iruka walked in on when he entered the classroom with a list in hand. He was still getting over the death of his best friends while at the same time consoling Keiko on the death of her lover. So it wasn't a shock to see the man with bags under his eyes, and a half-empty smile on his face. All of the students stopped what they were doing to give them their complete cooperation, which he was grateful for. "Good morning," he greeted the class, greeting him back. "I would like to congratulate all of you on becoming genin of the village. I know that you will bring honor to the village with your individual talents." The man forced a bigger smile on his face. "Now I will read out the names of the teams." Many of the students sat on the end of their seats. Team 1. Naruto turned the man out until he heard his name. He instead started thinking about what he was going to do about Hataru. Since he can't bring the girl along on high-ranked missions, Kakashi had told him about the terrors of D-rank missions. Maybe he could leave her at Kakashi's house. Team 7 will consist of Naruto Uzumaki, the blonde who lifted his head up to regard the teacher. Ino Yamanaka, the blonde girl, just smiled at them with a grateful smile. And Satsuki Uchiha, the girl, smirked that she had two people who could actually keep up with her. "What's not far? How come Naruto gets to have two girls on his team?" yelled a random male student. "Yeah, and why are they the two hottest girls in class?" yelled another. Many of the other guys started yelling things similar to what the two males before them yelled out. "Shut up!" They looked at Naruto, who had a tick mark on his head at the bitching the guys were doing at the moment, and Iruka looked like he was lacking some sleep, and needed to rest for a bit, or a day. "Can't you idiots see Iruka is using whatever willpower he has to just stand here talking to us?" Naruto frowned while looking at the front of the class with a tick mark on his forehead. "Idiots?" they yelled. "You're the dead last," one yelled. "Why do you get such a privilege?" yelled another. "Shut the hell up," Naruto yelled, flaring his killer intent, directing it at the other males. This made them sit back in their seats with sweat dripping down their foreheads. "Man, you're such fools," giggled Ino with a hand in front of her mouth, and a mischievous look in her eyes. Many of the males start blushing at the girl acknowledging their presence, even if it was to call them out on being idiots. Satsuki made a dismissive sound while crossing her arms under her upayas. Hataru watched the reactions of her daddy and his teammates, smiling brightly, and copied her mommy by pouting and crossing her arms. "Thank you, Naruto," said a grateful Iruka while taking a look at the list again. "And for your information, there is an odd number of male to female ratio, so one team was going to have two females and one male. And it only made sense that those people be Satsuki, the Rookie of the Year, Ino, Kunoichi of the Year, and Naruto, the dead last. This rule has been followed since the beginning of the academy," Iruka informed them, making many of the guys still grumble about it being unfair, which Iruka promptly ignored. Team 8 will consist of Shikamaru and Nara, who Nara kept snoring. Hinata Hyuga, the Hyuga girl, looked downtrodden while sending a longing look at Naruto. And Shino Abraham, the bug user, didn't show if he was happy or not, but he did acknowledge that he heard the. Team 9 is in circulation at the moment, so Team 10 will be Choji Akamachi. The big boned boy looked sad at not being paired with his best friend, but hoped he got nice people on his team. And since there were only 2 people left, he was more or less happy with his 2 teammates. Sakura Haruno. The girl smiled at Irika with a small smile. The girl had lost whatever drive she had before when Satsuki was thought to be a man, and at the moment was looking for something to fight for. Ino tried to help the girl, but she told her she wanted to find it on her own. And lastly is Kiba Inuzuka. The dog boy hooped. He was friends with Choji when they were younger, so he thought of the boy as someone part of his pack, and he liked that Sakura had toned down after the Satsuki incident, and that meant he and Akamaru wouldn't suffer hearing loss. Your senseis will come pick each team up in a little bit. Use this time to get to know your teammates. Irika smiled at them one more time. If you will excuse me, I need to get home, as I am not feeling well. The brown-haired man turned towards the door, but stopped when a yell rang out in the room. Wait! He turned back around to see Hataru running down the steps, and stopping in front of the man, making him blink in surprise. The little girl held her hands up holding a card in her hands, surprising Irika even more. Here, I made this for you. Daddy said you've been down lately because of Mizuki's passing, so I wanted to cheer you up. The girl smiled brightly, making Irika smile softly at the girl, and tentatively took the card from the girl, who placed her hands behind her back, and waited for the man's reaction. Irika opened the card, and saw that there was a drawing of stick people. One had wings, and white hair, and was flying towards a light in the sky with a smile on his face. There were 2 other people on the ground. One had a scar over their nose, and the other had green hair. Both held their hands up with smiles like they were sending the white-haired man to the light. On the bottom it read, Mizuki is watching over us in heaven, making sure we live happy lives. Irika choked back tears while kneeling in front of the girl, and pulling her into a hug, shocking the girl. Thank you, Hataru-chan. This means a lot to me, he said, making the girl smile, and hugging the man back. I think Keiko deserves this more than me though, since she and Mizuki were in love with each other. Irika letting go of the girl. In love? The girl said, looking thoughtful. Oh. Like Kao-san, and Tu-san, she said, making Naruto and Satsuki fall over in their seats. We aren't in love, the 2 yelled, making Hataru giggle in happiness, and causing the class to laugh at their expense, making the 2 blush brightly. Naruto sat on the roof of the Hokage Tower with a bento box in his right hand, and chopsticks in the other. His other teammates sitting in a makeshift circle with Hataru on Naruto's right, Satsuki on his left, and Ino sitting across from him. The 3 girls had their own bentos in hand, chewing on their lunches. A comfortable silence had resounded around the 4, as they ate softly. Hataru nibbled on a piece of sushi happily. The girl had a slight obsession with the fresh food from the sea. Satsuki took time in her morning to make a bento box for Hataru, who was ever so grateful, along with one for herself, which was a normal bento with some additions such as tomato slices, the girl's favorite. Ino and Naruto had standard bentos, which the girl had, in her words, accidentally made extra amounts of food, and decided to make an extra bento for whoever were her teammates that forgot to make lunch. Wonder how long Freddy and Freddy are gonna be gone, thought Naruto absent-mindedly. So Ino said, smiling at the 3, making them look up at her. Are you guys excited to meet our sensei? She asked. I don't really care who they are, as long as they are strong, said Satsuki, taking a piece of tomato to eat after saying her piece. I just hope they're as strong as my Nei-san, Naruto said, doing a double-eye smile, as Ino nodded at their answers. The girl turned her attention towards Hataru, and smiled at her. The girl happily chewed on her sushi. What about you, Hataru-chan? Are you going to be training with us? The girl looked up, and quickly swallowed what she was chewing. Of course I am. I'm gonna be the strongest kunoichi one day after all, the girl said, grinning, and my daddy is the strongest person I know. If I train with him, I'll be one step closer to that, she said with conviction. The girl's statement made Ino and Satsuki remember a younger version of Naruto who would declare his ambition to become Hokage to anyone who would listen to him. Where'd that idiot go? They thought, feeling a clenching feeling in their hearts. That's a nice dream to have, Hataru-chan, said Ino, grinning at the girl who grinned back. I think we should finish up soon, said Naruto, taking a bite of his rice ball. It seems like the others are returning to class. The 3 girls looked over the side of the building, seeing the genin heading into the building again to meet their senseis. They started eating their lunches faster so they could get to meet their sensei. We find the members of Team 7 sitting in the classroom 2 hours later waiting for their sensei to arrive. Every other team's senseis had arrived, and picked them up, slowly leaving till Team 7, as the only team left. Ino had resorted to painting her nails a healthy shade of purple. The blonde girl offered to paint both Satsuki's and Hataru's nails. The Uchiha at first refused to have her nails painted, but after Hataru begged her to do it, as well did the girl relent, and allowed the Yamanaka to paint her nails. Satsuki had chosen black nail polish, which Ino happily applied to the girl's nails, Now Satsuki had never taken the time to befriend any girl from her class since she was solely focused on training to achieve perfect marks. So it felt weird for her to have her nails painted by another female. Not that any male had painted her nails. Hataru sat next to the Uchiha girl with her nails in front of her, blowing on them to make them dry quicker. She had a shade of light brown, like the color of her clothes. Naruto sat at the desk behind the girls, book in hand, and leaning back. A huge grin was on his face behind his book. The girls saw his grin after the first hour, and were confused at why the boy was grinning, and not fuming, as they were. Although any chance at finding out why was met with a double-eye smile, and a "you'll see." They were sitting in relative silence, save for Hataru humming a happy tune to a song she heard Freddy humming when he was around the girl. And, I think y'all know the tune being hummed XD. Sorry, back to the story. They heard the door opening, making them all look up to see. Flashback. The third stood in front of the gathered jounin who had all applied to become jounin senseis for that year's Genin. So far they were able to go through teams 1 to 6, which only left teams 7, 8, and 10. All had watched how the Genin interacted with one another after they were given their teams. Some of the teams of 1 to 6 were getting along with each other, while others were almost at each other's throats. When it came to teams 7, 8, and 10, though, everyone present could see that those teams just screamed teamwork. Team 8 was a reserve sort of team, with a shy Hyuga, a quiet Abraham, and a lazy Nara. The team would be one that would probably be the one to go on assassination and information gathering missions, or any mission that required them to be stealth. Team 10 was also reserved, although with Kiba there it did tend to get a bit high in volume. That wasn't to say the boy was excessively loud, instead he was the more vocal one of the three, with Sakura being half mute at times, and Choji almost constantly chewing on chips. This team was probably an all-rounder team, with a long-distance fighter/genjutsu user, Sakura, a full frontal fighter, Choji, and a tracker/mid-range fighter, Kiba. Then they got to Team 7. This was the team that would probably be making huge waves in the ninja world. An Uchiha Avenger that has no grasp on her emotions, a lazy Jinchuriki that was regarded an enigma, and a Yamanaka thrown in the mix who is recorded as the strongest kunoichi of the year, under Satsuki of course, with the better social skills than the two others put together. This team couldn't place what was special about, no one could place what kind of category the team fell under, since the skills each possessed didn't really match up with the weaknesses of the others. But tradition was tradition, they had to place the dead last with the Rookie of the Year, and the kunoichi of the year to balance it out on paper. Anybody with eyes could see that the blonde boy wasn't letting on how strong he really was, or what skills he really had if he's skeptical on the day of the Genin exam. His ability to fly was anything to go by. The only one who knew anything about the blonde boy was just walking through the door at that moment, reading his usual Ichich book. "Yo, am I late?" he asked, making the other jounin in the room's sweat drop at the obvious answer. "Alright, now that we're all here," said the Hokage with an irritated frown on his face directed at Kakashi, who chose this moment to put his book away. "We can finish the team selections. Kurenai, you said that you wanted to take on Team 8 as your Genin squad, is that correct?" The woman with red eyes and black hair nodded her head. "Hi Hokage-sama," she said. "Your record shows that you have had dealings with Hinata Hyuga in the past, as a personal caretaker. This will not hinder your duties as a sensei, will it?" The woman gulped at the stern look the Hokage directed at her. "No Hokage-sama," she said. "Fine, then I will allow it. But you are not to coddle Hinata in any way," the Hokage said, making Kurenai nod in understanding. "Good." Moving on, Asuma said he wants to take on Team 10, which I have no problem with since he will be a good sensei towards them, and if possible calm Kiba down a notch. "But protocol dictates that I ask why you asked for this team." Hiruzen turned his attention towards his son. "Firstly, I think that, as you said, I can make Kiba calm down considerably. Second, I think that I can bring Sakura out of her newly formed shell she has put up around herself. And lastly, I think Choji has some hidden talents, and I want to bring it out to the foreground." Sarutobi nodded his head while stamping the sheet approved. He looked at the list. "Alright, last, and certainly not least, is Team 7 of Naruto Uzumaki, Satsuki Uchiha, and Ino Yamanaka." Kakashi cleared his throat. I would like to take them on," said someone at the back, raising their hands. Everybody moved out of the way to see who it was, and saw Keiko was the one to ask for this request. Kakashi's only visible eye widened in shock. "Oh? Why is that, Keiko-san?" the old Kage asked, very interested now. "Well, I was put on a team that was a hard-hitter team at the time, focusing mainly on fighting in the front of a battle, and the makeup of this team shows that they will do well in that regard." Keiko took a deep breath while coughing slightly. They could all see the woman was a bit sick. Kurenai went over and checked if the woman was okay enough to stand on her own, which she said she was okay with. Actually, everybody turned to Kakashi, who had a bored look on his face. "I too was part of a team that focused on full frontal attacks, and, not to be rude, but I feel that I can provide training for all of them. There was a definite tension in the air, as the two jounin stared each other down. I made a decision, said the third after 2 minutes of silence. The sensei of Team 7 will be. End flashback. Keiko-san? Said Naruto with a raised brow. This wasn't the person he expected to show up after waiting a full 2 hours, something his Nei-san was known to take advantage of. Hello Naruto-san, the woman said, smiling at the genin and the brown-haired girl. Are you our jounin sensei? Asked Ino, putting her nail polish away. Keiko smiled softly at that. Well, yes, and no, this confused the present teens and child. Huh, they all said. The four found themselves sitting on the steps of the roof facing the railing that was currently occupied by 2 people. One was Keiko, and the other had made Naruto grin the minute he stepped out the door leading to the roof. So why don't we get to know one another? Said Kakashi, eyes smiling at the four. Before we do that, can you explain what is going on here? Asked Satsuki with a suspicious look present in her eyes. Oh, don't you want 2 senses? Asked Kakashi with a bigger eye smile, making the girl growl. Well, you see, Team 7 is in so high demand that they appointed 2 senseis to teach you guys. This made the 3 genin of Team 7 smirk/grin in pride, or you guys are just bunch of troublemakers that the Hokage saw it fit to appoint 2 senseis to keep you in line. That statement made the 3 face fault. Now that is out the way, let us get on to introductions to get to know one another. Why don't you go first? Kakashi said to Keiko, hiding a cough. Alright, I don't see why not. Kakashi took a thinking pose. My name is Kakashi Hatake. My likes are reading his books, answered Naruto. My dislikes are traitors who injure their comrades. My hobbies are training and reading. And finally, my dream is to get a team he can be proud of. Kakashi's eyes smiled well, and Naruto's double eyes smiled. The boys' 2 teammates looked at the 2 of them in shock. Keiko rolled her eyes, coughing slightly, and Hataru looked at her father with stars in her eyes. That was so cool, she exclaimed with hands on her cheeks. Can you read minds, Daddy? She asked. Daddy? Asked Kakashi with a raised brow, looking at his little brother. Oh yeah, Nisan, this is Hataru. She's my adoptive daughter, said Naruto. As Kakashi nodded his head, he was out of the village when Naruto had adopted Hataru, and had only returned during the Forbidden Scroll incident, so, as you could imagine, they were busy at the moment. And after they buried Mizuki, Naruto had asked Satsuki to take care of the little girl so he could get over Mizuki's death on his own. So, as you guessed, Kakashi didn't see the girl when he came over to check on his little brother. Well then, let's move on then, said the masked jounin, turning to Keiko. Do you want to introduce yourself? Okay. My name is Keiko Yumi. My hobbies include curling up by the fire and reading a good book. The woman looked like she wanted to say something else, but held her lips closed. All of them didn't call her out on it. My dislikes are Orochimaru, and those who pick on people that are weaker than them. My hobbies are training and sampling sushi restaurants. Hataru's eyes widened and looked like a happy gaping fish. And my dream, she looked off into space briefly. I'd much rather not talk about that at the moment, if that's alright. That's fine, the 3 genin said. Okay then, next is our own local superstar. He pointed lazily at Satsuki, who huffed in annoyance. My name is Satsuki Uchiha. My likes are very little, but that does include training. I dislike a lot of things, especially the council for thinking of me as some kind of baby factory. Hataru looked at Naruto after the girl said that. Is that where babies come from? From Mommy. Naruto's face faltered at that while the others laughed, save for Satsuki, who was blushing up a storm. Well, you see, the thing is, Naruto didn't know what to say to that. Of course he knew where babies came from, he just didn't want to have this kind of conversation now of all times. How about we talk about this another time, he said, making Hataru pout. But I want to know now. She threw a hissy fit, making Naruto's eyebrow twitch. Hataru-chan. No! The girl held firm on this quest to know. How Naruto was cut off by a giggling Keiko. Naruto-san, why don't you let me have this talk with her? Well, you all continue with your introduction, she said, walking over to Hataru, and held her hand out for the girl to take, who happily did. She was happy someone was willing to answer her question. When the 2 vanished behind the door leading to the roof, Kakashi turned his gaze back to a blushing Satsuki. You were saying? Right, she took a deep breath, and let it out again. My hobby is training, and my dream, no, it's not dream, it's a promise. I will kill my brother, and revive my clan. There was a tense moment after she said that. Not a peep was heard between the 4. Okay, moving on then, said Kakashi, the blonde female with the developing rack, if you will. If the way Kakashi addressed the blonde with the rack bothered her, Ino didn't show it, and smiled at the man. My name is Ino Yamanaka. My hobbies are flowers, and learning how to use the different properties of them in battle. My dislikes are those who look down on others just because they think they're better than them. My hobbies are finding new flowers, and learning more about them. My dream, the girl giggled with a hand in front of her mouth. Well, you see, that's a secret. Alrighty then, said Kakashi, pointing at Naruto last, and certainly not least is my favorite little brother, Well, only brother. Ah, Nasen, you're making me blush, the blonde said, chuckling. Satsuki looked at the interaction, and had to look away with a scowl on her face, while glaring holes through a certain tree. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like many things, such as my friends, my Nasen, and Hataru-chan especially, and ramen. My dislikes are very minimal, and by minimal I mean it's too I dislike those who want to inflict pain on someone, physically or emotionally. And the 3-minute wait for ramen to cook. The two girls giggled at this along with a chuckling Kakashi. The head tried to stop the blonde's addiction to the food so he wouldn't stunt his growth with the insane amounts the boy could consume. But the man was only able to dim the addiction to 1 bowl a day, and as many as he wants once a month. And my dream, he chuckled, well, you all should know I want to become the best Hokage one day. Now that is out of the way. They looked towards the door to see Hataru bursting out of said door and running towards Naruto. She jumped into his arms and hid her face in his shoulder. Hataru asked Naruto, what's wrong? I'm sorry for asking, the girl yelled into his shoulder, trembling. Keiko walked towards them with a giggle. Keiko-san, what did you tell her? Asked the blonde boy. Well, I couldn't just tell her where babies came from without telling her the process, as well, the woman said with a shrug. I'll never sleep again, the girl yelled, making the others save for Keiko's sweat drop. As I was saying, they turned their attention to Kakashi. The Genin exams you guys took were just to weed out those who aren't fit for the job. The Genin looked on with raised brows and confused looks on their faces. Truth is, only 3 teams will actually become ninja. This made their faces turn deathly pale. What? They yelled, making Kakashi chuckle and Keiko giggle. Well, it's the truth, so tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. at Training Ground 7, I will be administering a test to see if you 3 have what it takes to become Genin. He gave a wave to them. I'll be seeing you 3 tomorrow. Oh, Naruto, you can bring Hataru with. Keiko-san will be there to keep the girl occupied with his piece, said. The 2 vanished in puffs of smoke, with a single log being left in their wake, and a note pinned to it. Oh, you don't eat anything for breakfast or you'll throw up. Naruto followed the 2 Freddys towards the market district after Hataru said she wanted to spend the night with Satsuki, who readily agreed, and insisted that Ino come with. The blonde girl didn't have a problem with it, although it took quite a bit of begging on Hataru's part to get the girl to agree. They stopped in front of the rumble where Naruto had met Freddy for the first time. The 2 ghosts floated deeper in the rumble, motioning Naruto to follow them, which the blonde did. They stopped in front of a table that had a big blueprint paper with plans for a 3-4-story building on it. Naruto, do you know why we brought you here? Asked Freddy. To look over these blueprints, said Naruto, looking over the blueprints, which were very detailed from the inside and the outside. It pertains to that, said Freddy, floating over so he was leaning on Naruto's head, looking at the plans. You see, we want to rebuild the old restaurant, with new additions of course. Naruto looked up at the 2 with a questioning look in his eyes while readjusting his mask on his head. Explain. Well, you see, Freddy and I have been talking, and we think that rebuilding the restaurant will be beneficial to you, said Freddy, floating over so he was looking Naruto in the eyes. If what Freddy tells me is true, then many in the village don't really like you. Naruto nodded his head in confirmation to that. How does building a restaurant help my issue with the villagers? Well, as we see it, if they see you have a restaurant that appeals to the children of the village, then they gotta see that you aren't what they think you are, and that you are extremely harmless, said Freddy, as Naruto looked down and thought while staring at the blueprints. What if they think that I'm just trying to trick them by getting them to eat here, and then put poison in their food or something, and completely steer clear of the restaurant? Asked the blonde boy. You just worry about restoring the restaurant, and we'll worry about drawing in customers, said the older animatronic, Freddy, if you're wondering. So, what do you say? Asked Freddy. I'm game, said Naruto, looking up at them after pushing Freddy's arm off of the top of his head. This also gives me the chance to try out a new seal I've been working on. What kind of seal? Freddy asked. Well, as I said, the seal hasn't been tested, but it should rebuild something that has been destroyed, explained Naruto. At the moment I have a prototype ready, and this gives me a chance to test it out. Can you tell us more about this seal? Asked Freddy. Does the seal have to be applied to the building for it to remain standing? Well, the original seal I read about in a book said the seal had to stay attached to the building for it to remain standing, but I have altered it so that the seal just rebuilds, and doesn't need to remain attached. The downside to this is that it requires more chakra for it to work effectively. Well, the original one didn't require that much chakra, which explains why the seal needed to be attached since it's a makeshift building. The version I have literally rebuilds the whole building, from cement between the bricks to the interior decor. So there's a chance that the animatronic suits will also be restored? Asked Freddy. Well, if I can get a visual of the suits, I can have some shadow clones work on a seal that can tone down the original to the point that it will be able to bring the suits back. Naruto walked towards the back of the building with a piece of chalk that he found on the table. That's easy, we'll just possess you so that you have an idea of how the suits looked, said Freddy with a grin. That will work, said Naruto, crouching down so he could make a circle on the ground. I'll get started on reconstruction tomorrow. After my test in the morning, he walked around the corner and made another circle on the floor. How long will it take? Asked Freddy. Well, if I work around the clock with my shadow clones, then 4 full days, he said, 1 for each story of the building, although, as I saw on the blueprints, the 3rd and 4th floor don't have anything in it, while the 2nd and 1st floor are very detailed. We were thinking that the 4th floor could be for you to live in along with Hataru, and whoever else you want to live with you. That explains the 4th floor, but not the 3rd floor. Naruto drew another circle in the front. Many of the villagers looked at him in confusion, but then ignored him and moved on with their day. Well, we thought that the 3rd could be converted into another theme instead of just a restaurant theme on that floor, said Freddy. What kind of theme are we talking about here? Asked Naruto, drawing the last circle on the empty side, and walked back over to the table. Puppet told me about a horror attraction that was constructed after the 3rd closure of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. I think they called it Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction, said Freddy, sitting on a piece of rubble, although the problem is that neither Freddy nor I have seen what it looks like, either has Puppet. That will be a problem. But until we find someone with knowledge on Fazbear's Fright, we will have to use it as storage. Naruto sat on the floor with his back on the table leg. I can already tell this is gonna be fun, he grinned, while the two ghosts mirrored. Naruto opened up. The blonde currently had his head on his kitchen, pieces of paper all round said kitchen on the floor and on the table. Some of the papers were crumbled up. Most of them were in the bin, making it overflow with papers. Yeah, keep your panties on, the blonde called back just loud enough so the person could hear him. He lifted his head up and walked towards the door to see who had woken him up. He walked towards the door, scratching his stomach and yawning. The boy had stayed up the majority of the night working on the seal, and was almost there. But he fell asleep just as he was about to finish it, so he was going to have to add that last addition. That's assuming I find it, he thought, mentally groaning at the papers littered all over the kitchen. The banging on the door snapped him out of his trance, and made his way to the door again. When he got there, he opened the door to see Satsuki standing there with an impatient look on her face while crossing her arms and tapping her foot on the ground. Hataru and Ino stood behind the irritated girl, both giggling at the piece of paper that was stuck to the side of Naruto's head. Hey girls, Naruto greeted with a tired grin on his face. He only wore a gray top and a pair of black basketball shorts that had 2 vertical stripes on either side of it. He had a pair of black and orange high tops. Don't hey girls us, Satsuki growled. We've been standing here for 5 minutes waiting for your lazy ass to get up. Sorry Satsuki-chan, but I was busy the majority of the night, he said, well, chuckling and scratching the back of his head. The girl raised a brow and grabbed the piece of paper stuck to Naruto's head and looked over it. She looked back up at the blonde, who reached out and took the paper back. What's this one for now? She asked with a frown. Satsuki wasn't annoyed at the seal itself. She respected the blonde's ability to take to seals like a fish to water, and the things the seals can perform which still astonish her. No, she was annoyed that the boy had stayed up working on another seal when he was supposed to be sleeping and saving up energy for their test that morning. It's a secret, Satsuki-chan said. Naruto patted the girl on the head, making her bat his hand away in anger. Whatever just gets done, we're late, said Satsuki with a huff. Late? The boy laughed. We'll never be late when it comes to Kakashi-sensei. He walked into his home, letting the girls enter. What do you mean, Naruto? Asked Ino, entering the kitchen and kicking some papers to the side and sitting on one of the chairs. Exactly what I said, he responded from his bathroom. Kakashi-sensei never shows up on time and takes 2 hours to arrive. When the 3 outside the bedroom heard the shower running. So you know about him? Satsuki called slightly loud so Naruto could hear her over the sound of the shower. Of course I know him. He's my Nasen after all, said Naruto. Satsuki gripped a picture of Naruto and Kakashi tightly, memories of her and her brother being that close once upon a time. So what do you say about the no eating breakfast rule? Asked Ino. That's a load of BS, said Naruto, laughing when they heard the shower being turned off after 5 minutes. The door opened, and they looked towards the room, and saw the blonde standing there with previous shorts on, and rubbing his hair dry. Ino and Satsuki's mouths dropped open in shock. Naruto was, in their words, ripped. The boy's muscles flexed as he rubbed his hair dry. The girls' mouths felt dry as they licked their lips. Mommy? And Ino? Hataru looked between the two with a confused look in her eyes. And Ino? Naruto said with a grin while putting the towel around his neck and regarding the two with a raised brow. Ino quickly shook off her shocked look and smiled at Naruto, her blush still present. Satsuki turned around while holding her nose so Naruto wouldn't see her nose bleed. Very perverted images coming to mind when she caught sight of the blonde boy. Oh yes, the girl took to calling me that since she can't really call me mommy. As well can she? Ino said with a mischievous look in her eyes. Naruto gave a nervous chuckle seeing the glint in her eyes, and an evil look Satsuki was giving him looking over her shoulder while holding her nose. I'm just gonna go change, he said, closing the door. Daddy's funny, Hataru said, giving her new top a tug. Ino had taken the girl out shopping when she informed the girl that the only clothes she had were the ones on her at that moment. The clothes she wore at the funeral were a spare Naruto had from when he was younger. Now the girl wore a slightly darker pink short-sleeve top with blue overalls on. One of the overalls was unstrapped and hung loosely. She had blue sandals on, and a hairband in her hair to keep her bangs out of her eyes. Okay, let's go. The boy stepped out of his room with the same clothes on as before, but was a new set that the blonde had purchased. The only difference was the black jacket that had a white/silver fur on the edge of the hood, and the Uzumaki swirl on the shoulder. To top off his look, he wore his black banded high tie wrapped around his forehead. Nice clothes, said Ino, giving the blonde thumbs up, who grinned at her while placing his hands in his jacket pockets. Got him on sale, said Naruto, walking towards the door while grabbing his keys and Hataru's hand. He let the two girls go out before locking the door behind him, the four heading towards Training Ground 7. On their way there, the four stopped and bought some apples to eat. Hataru didn't eat any since Satsuki had made the girls some breakfast before they left, since the girl wasn't taking a test that morning. They munched on the apples. It wasn't really going to satisfy their hunger fully, but it would keep their stomachs under control so that it wouldn't give them problems during their test. When they entered, they saw the training ground was empty, with the orange glow from the rising sun lighting the grounds up. The four made their way to one of the trees there, and they all leaned up against the tree with Hataru between Satsuki and Naruto, and Ino on Naruto's other side. They all sat in comfortable silence, with Hataru snuggling up against Satsuki with her arms wrapped around the girl, who had her one arm around Hataru, pulling her closer. Soon they all fell asleep, listening to the sounds of birds chirping in the trees to the rising sun. They're so cute, said Keiko, cooing at the cuteness of the sleeping forms of the genin. Naruto was leaning up against the tree with Satsuki, and Ino leaning on either shoulder, using them as pillows, while Hataru had moved from being in between her parents to sitting in Satsuki's lap, and using the girl's bosom as pillows. I know, right, said Kakashi, reaching into his pouch, withdrawing a camera, and taking a picture. Too bad the flash made the four kids start stirring. Kakashi quickly put the camera away again. The four opened their eyes, and saw their senseis standing there smiling at them. Have a nice nap? Asked Kakashi, making them all jump up at attention. Alright, now that we're all awake, Keiko, can you keep Hataru occupied? I administered the test to our cute little genin. Keiko nodded, and grabbed a relatively dazed Hataru, leading her out of the training ground, promising the girl ice cream and sweets. When the two had left the training ground, the three genin gave their teacher their full attention. Okay, I'll keep this short and simple. Kakashi pulled out 2 bells and dangled them in front of the genin. All you have to do is get a bell from me, and you pass. Yet there are 2, said Naruto with a raised brow. Very observant of you, said Kakashi, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Yes, there are 2, meaning one of you will be sent back to the academy. This got the desired effect Kakashi wanted from them, but only from the 2 girls. Naruto had a thoughtful look on his face, with his lips pursed and his eyebrows furrowed. I'll give you a tip. Come at me with the intent to kill, or you will fail, and get tied to one of the logs over there, and have to watch me eat your lunch. Kakashi waited for the grumbles, but heard none, which made him smile inwardly. He took out a timer, and set it for 2 hours from now. When this timer goes, and all of you have failed to get a single bell, I will be sending you back to the academy. Ready? The 2 girls tensed themselves well, and Naruto stood still and relaxed. Set. When the 2 girls jumped away to hide, Naruto stood in front of Kakashi with a grin on his face. You're not gonna hide too? Asked the masked Jonin, reaching into his pouch and withdrawing his book to read. Not my style, said Naruto, taking his hands out of his pockets to make his favorite hand style, Shadow Clone Jutsu. An army of Narutos surrounded Kakashi, who didn't even seem surprised at the sheer amount of clones. The blonde's other teammates were shocked though. Get him, said Naruto, pointing at Kakashi, who just flipped a page. Ino sat in the tree while watching her teammate attack their sensei, as if he was the enemy. Lee, on the other hand, was ducking and weaving through the efforts of the clones, which the girl found out was real compared to the types of clones she can make. So much smoke was around the area the 2 were stationed at that it kind of restricted her view on what was happening in the smoke cloud, although she could see 2 figures that were fighting one another. When it lifted, she could see Naruto was in a modified Street Fighter stance, with Kakashi still reading his book. In fact, the man hadn't put his book away ever since he took it out. Naruto was still grinning as he made himself levitate off the ground and flew at the Jounin, a fist cocked back. When he got close, the older male ducked under the swing of the boy and grabbed his top and threw him towards the ground. When he made contact with the ground, a crater formed along with a puff of smoke. When it cleared, Naruto was still laying there, but he had his puppet clothes on. The boy didn't even look like he was in pain at the moment. Naruto got up and dusted off his top. Okay, now things get serious from here on out, Sensei, he said. Well, Kakashi just turned a page. So you're done already? He asked, as Naruto cracked his neck. Oh yeah, with that said, Naruto's arms shot forward and wrapped around Kakashi, who in response substituted himself with a log which Naruto processed to rip in half, and chucked the two halves at Kakashi, who had reappeared. The dodged the two halves, but wasn't prepared for the flying kick sent to his stomach, which he barely blocked. Naruto didn't stop there. He twisted his body and stretched it so that he could get the bells, only succeeding in scraping them with the tip of his index finger. Kakashi quickly spun around and whipped the blonde away. Naruto righted himself mid-flight and landed on his feet in a crouch while skidding back a bit. Nice job, said Kakashi, turning a page. You almost made me stop reading. Almost? Naruto just grinned inside his head. It's over. Wow, he's good, thought Ino. Maybe if we team up we can take down Kakashi-sensei. Team up, she thought. Figured it out? She heard next to her and jumped slightly. They're on the same branch as Naruto, who was watching himself fight Kakashi, if that made sense. I guess, she said, as the Naruto in the clearing vanished in a puff of smoke. We have to work as a team to get the bells from Kakashi-sensei, or we're gonna all fail miserably. Very observant, Ino-chan, said Naruto, smiling at the girl with his normal clothes on. Ino's cheeks were tinted red with the honorific Naruto added to her name. If I sang the Love Bird Sitting in the Tree song, would it be appropriate? They looked down and saw Kakashi standing under the tree with an eye smile present on his face, or what was shown. We aren't in love, the two yelled, as Naruto grabbed Ino and flew away from their previous position. So how did this happen? Asked Naruto, holding in his laughter, as he looked down at Satsuki's head, which was poking out of the ground, the girl growling angrily. Not a word, she said through gritted teeth. Get me out of here, she yelled at the laughing blondes. After getting over their laughing fits, the blonde duo proceeded to dig out their third teammate. When Satsuki was free, she was about to go back and try to get the bells again, but was stopped by Naruto gripping her arm. Wait, Satsuki-chan, said the boy. Listen, we gotta work together to beat Kakashi-sensei. The girl looked at him like he had grown a second. Are you stupid? The girl said with a narrowed-eyed look. There are only two bells. If one of us gets the bells, then that person doesn't get sent back to the academy by default. And I aim to be that person. She turns her back on her teammates again. If you let me do this by myself, I'll probably let you have a bell, she said. That's exactly what Nissan wants. This statement made the girl pause mid-stride. What? She looked at Naruto over her shoulder. This test is about teamwork. It's to see if we can out our pride and dreams on the back seat and work together, explained Naruto, putting his hands in his pockets while a serious expression present on his face. The objective of getting one of the two bells with the fear of being sent back to the academy will drive a wedge between any other team. But we can overcome this and do this together. Naruto put right hand forward. So what do you say? Will you work with us? He asked. The Uchiha heiress didn't say anything for a bit, then put her hand in Naruto's. Alright, we'll do this your way, she said reluctantly. Alright then, here's the. They were cut off by a loud ringing going off. Crap, the three said simultaneously. Yes, the three of you are in a load of it, said Kakashi with an eye smile, standing behind Naruto. Why are we both tied to the log? Yelled Satsuki while she tried to break off of her bindings, and Ino next to her just accepted that she wasn't getting out anytime soon, but was curious as to why she was tied up. For the obvious reasons that he pointed at. Satsuki were reluctant to help your teammates. When they came to get your help to complete the mission, the girl stopped her, struggling, and dropped her head, gritting her teeth. Why am I also tied up? Asked Ino. That is because you didn't really try to do something during my fight with Naruto, said Kakashi, making the girl sweat. She wanted to help, but she didn't think that she would be able to adapt to Naruto's form of fighting, since what she could see was that the boy used a fighting style that contradicted her flexible fighting style. Naruto was the only one who figured out the test, and kept me distracted long enough so the two of you could figure out what the real test was. Kakashi sighed in annoyance. Normally I would have sent you back to the academy by now, but I've decided to give you three a second chance. Naruto, you can eat your lunch I bought, but don't give any to those two. Kakashi turned to walk away, but stopped when Naruto told him to wait. Yes, what is it? One thing. Naruto pulled his hands out of his pockets with his right hand balled in a fist. We win, sensei. The whole clearing was silent at that statement. Even the birds didn't make a sound at the declaration the blonde just made. Some wind blew through the clearing, making a few leaves blow between the team. What? Was the response from the other people in the same clearing. We won, said Naruto again, opening his hand, and they saw two bells dangling from between his index and middle fingers. The and two Genin stared at the boy with wide eyes. How did you? When I scrapped the bells, I put a transportation seal similar to the seals in a storage scroll. But instead of sealing the bells away, I sent them to this scroll where Naruto pulled out a storage scroll with a more complex seal on it than the normal one. All was quiet in the training ground once again save for the sounds of the bells jangling in the wind. Now what? Kakashi asked to pull out his book, after getting over his shock. Naruto looked down at the 2 bells in his hand, and smiled as he placed his hand that held the scroll in his pocket. Then took 2 kunai, and tied the bells to the handles, then proceeded to toss them at the restraints of his 2 teammates, cutting them loose, and giving them the bells. The lives of my friends mean more to me than any mission, he said, closing his eyes. Remember what you told me, Ni-san? Those who break the rules are trash, and those who abandon their teammates are worse than trash. Had this been a real mission, I would gladly have given my life to protect those 2. Naruto, the 2 girls thought their respect for the blonde boy was rising. Couldn't have said it better myself, said Kakashi with a chuckle. As of tomorrow we are Team 7. The 3 genin cheered in their own ways. Satsuki gave a wide smirk. Ino clapped while jumping up and down, and Naruto gave a wide grin that forced him to squint his eyes. A huge tent was erected over the rubble, limiting view from anybody passing by. On the one side of the tent, many villagers were staring at the tent, wondering what was happening underneath it. Many claimed to have seen Naruto enter it with blueprints, papers, and a backpack. Naturally, they felt fearful at the unknown factor, since the blonde boy was known for his masterful pranks back in his younger days. So they sent someone to inform the Hokage of what was happening in that district. When the Hokage had arrived, he didn't say anything, and entered the tent, which had been over an hour ago. The villagers were wondering what was going on in there, and would have bull rushed the tent, but stopped themselves when the Hokage stepped outside the tent with some papers in hand. No one is allowed to enter this tent, he announced Hokage's orders, so the villagers walked away. If the Hokage was okay with what was going on in the tent, then they shouldn't worry, right? The Hokage had gone to his tower, and stamped the papers which read, approval of the building of a restaurant. Name, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Owner, Naruto Uzumaki. Estimated opening date, 27th of August, 5 days from the day this slip was filed. Type of service or goods approved. An eatery directed at mostly children for the animatronics that will be built. Estimated levels 4-2 to become 2 different restaurants with the same theme, but different animatronics. Top floor to become an apartment building for the owner, and those they want to live with him, relatives/friends. 3rd floor under construction until further notice. Hokage approval granted. Sarutobi signed the paper, and filed it away in a special security filing cabinet. Back with Naruto under the tent, the boy was busy with the plans of the interior of the restaurant. He wanted to spice it up a bit, mainly the 1st floor, because the images Freddy showed Naruto of the restaurant he was an entertainer at was relatively bland, and a bit boring. So the genin decided to spice up the place by making changes, and, since the building was going to be bigger, he planned to put a few extra rooms in. Freddy had asked Naruto if this was possible, since he remembered Naruto telling them his CEO rebuilt the building it was targeting. The blonde told him that it would cost him slightly more chakra, but he was willing to take that risk, and he had foresaw this last night, so he had already made changes to the seal to allow him to rearrange things in the building. So you want to give Foxy his own room? Asked Freddy, watching the blonde draw plans for a room just for his friend. The two never really saw eye to eye. Yeah, it's more of a pirate-themed room, since he is Foxy the pirate. After all, the two chuckled at the sounds of construction going on behind them. 4 clones were stationed around the building, with 10 clones standing by if the ones adding chakra to the seal happened to vanish from using up all their chakra to keep them alive. Each group had 1 scroll each that contained at least 100 more clones each, and the last clone of each group was told to unseal another 10 when it's only them left. How are the plans for the 2nd floor? Called Naruto over the sounds of bricks being placed. We're almost done, boss, yelled a clone that was working on the plans for the 2nd story. What about you guys? He looked at the group of clones who were busy reading books. He asked the Hokage to bring him from the library. The books explained things ranging from business management, rules that should be followed when running a restaurant, economics, what do people look for in a restaurant, cooking, etc. The blonde had asked Sarutobi to get him books on finance, some on planning, and interior decor. He had his clones studying the books since he knew the trick of the shadow clone jutsu, where they transfer everything they learned to the original. We're getting along all right here, boss, answered one of the clones. Naruto nodded his head, and walked over to the clones that were reconstructing the animatronic suits of the older versions. So far they were able to reconstruct Freddy's bottom half, since they had to do it piece by piece. Luckily the blonde thought ahead, and had more than 1 clone working on the reconstruction, with 2 using a seal to bring the parts together. We might finish ahead of schedule, said Freddy, floating upside down looking over all the construction. We might have seen Naruto grabbing one of the blueprints that showed the plans of a human-shaped bunny creature that had a bow tie and a guitar in hand. I wonder where the others are? said Freddy with a faraway look in his eyes. You miss them, don't you? Asked Naruto, looking up at Freddy. Of course I do, they were my friends after all, he said. And I guess I miss Foxy too, Freddy added with a shrug, making Naruto laugh. He knew the former animatronic regarded Foxy as one of his friends, but he'd be boiled alive before he admitted that. Where's Hataru? Freddy asked, righting himself, and floated cross-legged over Naruto's head. Well, said boy, placed the plans back from where he got it from. She's spending a few nights at Satsuki's house. So Naruto grabbed a pencil and started working on the plans for Foxy's room again. When the brown-haired girl arrived back at the training, Naruto told her that he had a project he needed to work on. Of course the girl was curious as to what the project was along with the other occupants of the field, but the blonde said that they would know about it in 5 days' time, so they let the blonde go on with his project without question. Kakashi told them that they will start real missions next week so Naruto could get done with his project without interruption. The boy had been thankful for that, so he could put his all into getting this project done. Now all that's left is how to draw customers in, and what kind of food to serve. Naruto pulled out a notepad so he can jot down ideas on what to do about a menu. I mean, I can't just serve pizza, maybe burgers? He wrote that down on the notepad. Oh, what if old Menichiraku and Ayame work here? If I make a ramen bar, a smoking area should be made so that children and non-smokers won't have to suffer from second-hand smoke. As he talked, he wrote down his ideas. Freddy watched the blonde jotting down ideas for the restaurant with a serene smile on his face. He's really determined to bring this place back to its former glory. The former animatronic floated towards the top of the tent and lay down on the roof, watching the clouds float by. It was peaceful outside, as compared to inside. The boy had placed silencing seals all around the walls of the tent to prevent disturbing the outside world. Where are you guys? The ghost thought, reaching towards the sky, seeing an image of him with his arms around the necks of Chika and Bonnie, grins on all their faces, with Foxy on the right-hand side with his arms crossed and a smirk on his face. 5 days later, Hataru woke up in the bed that belonged to her casa, and for the last day there, the two spent all their time together. They went to the park every day, watched movies, played some games that the Uchiha owned, such as Scrabble, chess, Monopoly, and Cluedo, although they had to invite Ino over to play the last two, not that the girl minded. Now her daddy had called and told Satsuki that they had to go to the market district and look for the big tent erected there. When they found it, they just had to call the blonde's name, and he'd come out to meet them and show what he had been working on. Mommy, the girl called, shaking the lump next to her, which groaned. Satsuki got up with her long hair being a bit messy. Come on, Mommy, we gotta go. Daddy said he wanted us there before 8 am. Hataru yawned, wishing her daddy would have asked them to come later, but he didn't give them an alternative time to arrive. Why can't the dobe have picked a later time? The Uchiha heiress thought to herself, picking herself up out of bed to get done for, as the blonde called it, the big unveiling. Come on, Hataru, you need to get showered, the girl said, yawning while stretching. She walked towards the kitchen so she could make breakfast for the two of them. Maybe I should make something for the idiot, the girl thought, looking at the crackling eggs. She was slowly starting to consider making breakfast for Naruto, but scoffed. Knowing that idiot probably made a steaming pot of ramen already, she said, blowing a bang out of her face. Though I do wonder what he has been working on, she said to herself. The question has been plaguing her mind since the boy announced that he was busy with a project. Guess I'll see what it is today, she said to herself, opening a pack of bacon. The duo were walking towards the market district. The girls wore their civilian clothes, which, for Hataru, was the clothes Ino had bought for her 5 days ago. Satsuki's was a dark blue tank top with a black relatively short skirt with black sandals. Her hair was loose since she wasn't going to train today. Maybe. I see the tent, said an excited Hataru, detaching her hand from Satsuki's and running towards the tent. What? The Uchiha blinked in shock. Hataru waited. She yelled, taking off after the girl, who was dodging people as she ran. Daddy, the girl yelled as she neared the tent, faintly noticing the people present, 5 to be precise. The flap opened, and Naruto walked out only to get tackled by a brown speeding bullet, almost making him fall over in shock. Wow! He steadied himself by putting one foot back and holding the brown bullet. He looked down and saw that it was Hataru. Hataru, the boy said with a grin, hugging the girl to his chest. I miss ya. I miss you too, Daddy, the girl exclaimed, happily hugging her father closer. Hataru! The two looked over to see Satsuki jogging up to them with an angry look on her face. What have I told you about running off without me? She asked with her arms crossed and foot tapping on the ground. Don't, said a sheepish Hataru, scratching the back of her head with a sweat drop. And what did you just do? She hissed. Run off without you, the girl said, looking down. Satsuki nodded her head with a huff and flipped her hair over her shoulder. Oh, come on, Satsuki-chan, she was just excited, said Naruto with a grin on his face. although the grin vanished when the girl focused a glare on him. "Don't," she hissed, making the blonde nodded fearfully. "Well, I don't mean to break up this little reunion, but didn't you call us here for a reason?" The three looked over to see Keiko, Iruka, Kakashi, Ino, and the third Hokage. "Oh right." Naruto perked up, and picked up Hataru, then placed her next to Satsuki, who was standing next to Ino, and walked till he was in front of the group. The boy cleared his throat well, puffing his chest out, and a big grin on his face. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said loudly, gaining the attention of some passers-by after working tirelessly for 5 whole days straight, only taking time off to have a quick bite, sleep for about 2 hours a night, and practice my hygiene, a necessity. I'd say some people chuckled. A bigger crowd had formed by now. "I have built an establishment that I hope will make everybody happy. My hope is that, even though it's new, that you will give it a chance. The Hokage has personally inspected the place, and determined that it's safe to open." Everybody could feel their hearts pumping in suspense. What was this thing? The blonde had sacrificed his time to sleep and meals. Many thought that he had built something that he'd use for a prank. "I give to you," the blonde grinned widely, well, gripping a rope that was hanging beside him. The new and improved audience was leaning forward in anticipation, eagerly wanting to see what was under the sheet. "Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria," he announced loudly, pulling the cord, and letting the tent fall. What was under the tent made everybody gasp in astonishment. There before them stood a tall 4-story building that was painted a cream peach color, that had 4 pillars at each corner that had red and white checkered, diamond-shaped patterns on it. The first floor had big windows which had curtains on it to hide the public view. On the second floor there were windows just as big, also with curtains restricting public view. The third floor lacked big windows, but there were small windows in their place, while the fourth floor had normal windows that were the size in the between the big and small windows. There were balconies on the second and fourth floor with tables and chairs on the second level's balcony. They were unable to see what was on the fourth balcony save for a railing that was also present on the second balcony. The ground floor had chairs and tables set up with a white picket fence around the front. But the thing that caught everybody's attention was the huge logo on the top that glowed bright colors. It showed animated-looking animals. There was a brown bear in a black top hat, and an equally black bow tie just under his chin, light blue eyes, and a mic in his right hand. To his left was a purple bunny that wore a bow tie just like the bear. Only his was red, in his hand was a red guitar, and magenta eyes. To the bear's right was a foxy, and a chicken. The chicken was yellow in color, and had a white bib on it that read "Let's Eat." There was a pink cupcake in the chicken's hand that had 2 yellow eyes with a yellow striped candle with a vinyl candle light on the top of its head. The chicken had a lighter shade of magenta than the bunny. Last was the fox that had crimson fur, and a hook on his right hand. His right eye was covered by an eye patch, and a yellow uncovered eye. All of them looked jolly and inviting. On the top of the picture read Freddy Fazbear's, and under it red Pizzeria logo was eye-catching from the image all the way to the relatively bright lights. "Come on inside," said Naruto, walking ahead of the small group. "I'll give you all a tour." The boy's team, former teacher, and the Hokage followed him without question, but the villagers looked among themselves, unsure if they should follow the boy inside. Eventually curiosity got the better of them, making them follow the blonde inside the establishment. The small group entered the place, and were amazed at the interior that had a very cheery atmosphere to it. The walls were decorated in the colors of light silver and light, almost orange, red, with paintings of the animatronics currently on the stage, but more animated. The animatronics looked like their logo picture, but more like real animals with real-looking muzzles on the bear, and bunny with freckles on the bears, and a beak on the chicken. The bear and bunny had 3 toes, and the chicken had, well, chicken feet. There were square tables all around with 4 chairs on each side. There were booths along the walls, 3 doorways, a stairway, and an elevator, one that had the words Pirate's Cove on top of it with a Jolly Roger on it, and treasure chests on either side. The area around the doorway looked like it belonged on a pirate ship. The other doorway was a double set of doors that, like other restaurants, probably led to a kitchen, and the last one said games. As you can see on the stage are the faces of this fine establishment. The blind lead the group over to the stage so the people could get closer looks at the animatronics, who were deactivated at the moment. In the middle is Freddy Fazbear, the lead singer of this band. To his right is Bonnie the bunny, the guitarist. And on Freddy's left is Chica the chicken. She is the backup singer. Yes, Chica is a girl, kinda hard to tell, but it's true, trust me. Naruto led them to Pirate's Cove. Through here is another animatronic of this level. The boy opened the door and let the group walk in. The inside was painted to make it look like they were standing on a ship with a blue sky and white clouds in the sky. What made them all pause in shock was the feeling of a slight wind being blown at them as they walked in. I see you all feel the wind, which is air cons, which can be turned off if you feel too cold. This is to simulate the feeling of being on a pirate ship, and if you were to look up, they all looked up, and gasped, seeing the painted sky was moving with clouds rolling by, and an occasional bird being seen. There is a seal embedded in the ceiling to simulate the view of the day, or night sky. The group were impressed. Everything was pirate-themed all the way to the tables and chairs. The main chair at the end of the table was more decked out, and had a flag with a Jolly Roger on it. There was an island to the one side of the room with real sand, real palm trees, and some rocks, and boulders on the wall that read Pirate Island. Overall the room looked impressive, although they all wondered what was on a stage that had a purple curtain, with stars on it, to the other side of the room. Over here is where the star of this room resides, the blonde said, walking over to the side of the room, and pulling a rope that made the curtains part to show the fourth character from the logo outside. The fox had tattered fur with 3 strings of hair on top of his head, a black eye patch over his right eye, brown pants that were slightly tattered, and anything below his knees showed his metal endoskeleton just like his left hand. His teeth were sharp, and some were golden, and to top of appearances his right hand had a hook on it. This is Foxy the pirate, and unlike his other friends out there, Foxy is only activated for pirate-themed parties. Naruto pulled the rope, and closed the curtains, and walked towards the door again. "Let's go to the second floor," he said, turning the light off when everybody walked out. When the last of the group got to the top, they saw this place was slightly more spacious than downstairs, with the walls being of the same colors as downstairs. There were long tables that could seat about 20 people. There were some booths along the wall that also had pictures like downstairs, only this time there were pictures of different animatronic characters, but were the same species as the ones downstairs. The bear in the middle was the same as the bear downstairs, save for the lighter brown fur, eyelashes, his face being flatter than his counterpart downstairs, and more rounded, while the animatronics downstairs were the same size and body. This bear was bigger than the other 2 besides him. He had 2 black buttons under his bow tie, a black top hat with a red stripe, and a mic in his hand. Next to him was a blue bunny with a similar red and white guitar as the one downstairs, only slightly newer in appearance. He had a smaller build than the bear next to him. His eyes were green with magenta eyelids, long eyelashes, and unlike the other animatronics, this bunny had a white circular tail. This bunny also had a red bow tie like the one downstairs, only a lighter shade of red. Lastly was a female by body shape. She was a yellow chicken with an orange beak, blue eyes, purple eyelids, long eyelashes, and orange feet. They could see that the body shape was rather, well, curvy, for a robot. Her choice of clothing was a pink garment on her lower body, and a white bib that had "Let's Party" printed on it. In her hand was a cupcake similar to the cupcake downstairs except for the big blue eyes, and lack of buck teeth, as the one downstairs has. One thing all these animatronics shared was their shiny new look, and the rosy red cheeks, although the chicken had pink cheeks. "And these 3 are the toy animatronics," said Naruto, getting on the stage, and motioning to the bear. "This is Toy Freddy. Lead singer," he pointed to the bunny. "Toy Bonnie, guitarist," and he pointed to the last character, although most knew what the chicken's name was by now, and Toy Chica, backup singer. With introductions done, the boy jumped off the stage again, and lead the group over to a room labeled Kid Cove in bright pink and white letters. This room, unlike Pirate's Cove, can be used anytime he opens the door, and leads them inside. The first thing they saw was that there were tables set up in rows with a stage in the back of the room. On the stage was a white toy version of Foxy downstairs, but wasn't half destroyed, as Foxy looked like, which gave the pseudo-pirate a wild edge. This fox was white and pink in color with a red bow tie around her neck. The fox was female by the shape of the body, and the pink garment similar to Toy Chica's. "And this is Mangle, our supervisor of this room. She will be giving out instructions on what goes on in this room." "What might you ask?" Well, the door opened, and the group looked back, and saw clones walking into the room one after the other with arms full of animatronic parts and coverings. In this room the kids can construct their own animatronic characters or just mess around. Naruto chuckled. If any of the kids decide to pull Mangle apart, they will be gently extracted from the stage and brought back to their parents by Mangle herself. If any children succeed in pulling even a piece of Mangle off, then there is a seal eye placed on her that will activate and reattach itself to Mangle without the hassle. Naruto walked over to Mangle and ripped off a piece. After the piece was taken off, a glow activated in Mangle's eye, and the piece was forcefully ripped from Naruto's hand and flew over to Mangle, reattaching itself to the animatronic. Everybody was amazed at the display. Why did I install this? Well, back in the old days, when the first version of Mangle was around, kids would get a hold of Mangle and rip off and rearrange her structure. I was appealed at this since Mangle wasn't even allowed to do what she was programmed to do, which was entertain children, so I took the fact that the kids would pull apart Mangle and created this room," Naruto said, motioning his hand around the room, which had animated pictures of the toy animatronics with speech bubbles by their mouths that had rules in them. "Let's go to one more room," said Naruto, leading them out of the room, and into another room which read games. "This is where our last 2 animatronics reside." Naruto opened the door, and walked inside. The amount of games here was astonishing. There were rows of different games where kids could go play. There are games downstairs, as well. Most are the same, but those that feature any of the animatronics are different. The upstairs ones feature the toy animatronics, as playable characters, while the ones downstairs feature the old animatronics, as playable characters such as Foxy's Pirate Adventure, Sing Along with Freddy, Jamming with Bonnie, Make the Cupcakes with Chica. Well, up here I put in Toy Chica's Dance Revolution, Be the Band, and many more. Naruto lead them over to an animatronic that looked like a little human boy with a rounded body, peach-colored skin, large blue eyes, an orange triangular nose, red-brown hair, and had a toothy grin. Like the other toy animatronics, this one had rosy red blush cheeks. His clothes was a red and blue vertically striped shirt with 2 black buttons down the middle, a propeller cap on top of his head with the same pattern. He had on blue pants with brown shoes. His arms were studied and, unlike the other animatronics, had rounded fingerless hands. In his right hand was a large red and yellow striped balloon, and in his left was a sign with balloons printed on it. "This little guy here is our balloon mascot. His name is Balloon Boy, or BB for short." Naruto gave the little guy's propeller a flick, making it spin slowly. "And over there," he pointed over his shoulder towards a counter which had a huge box next to it, "is the prize counter." The blonde leads them to the counter, and over to the box. "You all know what a jack-in-the-box is, right?" Seeing their nod, the blonde grinned. "Same concept with this box right here." The blonde motioned for his daughter to come forward, which the girl did, hesitantly though. "Now Hataru, I'm gonna need you to do something for me." The girl nodded with a confused and excited look. "Crank the handle on the side." The girl blinked, and slowly walked forward towards the box, hand outstretched for the handle her father told her to crank. When she held it in her hand, she looked back at her father, who had an excited look on his face, and motioned her with his hands to start cranking. Taking a deep breath, the girl started cranking the handle with a bit of effort. After a few seconds she stopped, as the handle wouldn't move anymore, and let go, and let it start to turn back the other way. "Okay, step back over here to me," the girl complied, preparing herself along with the other people. The box kept playing the song Jack in the Box does after it has been wound up. Everyone tensed themselves, getting ready for whatever would pop out of the box. When the song ended its round, the lid popped open, making everybody jump, as a black blur shot out. Hataru buried her face in her father's jacket in fright when the box opened. After a few seconds she felt a tapping on her shoulder, making her turn her head to the side, and stepped back in shock at the white mask there. The mask was the same as the one her father wore when he was in his puppet clothes. The thing in the box had a relatively lanky body with 3 white buttons on its torso with white stripes on its arms. In its rounded hand, which featured 3 spindle fingers each, there was a big pink wrapped box. The thing made an encouraging noise, giving the present a slight shake, as if it was encouraging the girl to take the present. Hataru looked up at her father, who nodded with a big grin on his face. She turned her head back, and carefully took the present from the puppet that tilted his head to the side, and made a happy sound. When the present was out of the puppet's hands, he patted the girl's head. Hataru couldn't help giggling. "This guy is a puppet," said Naruto, as the puppet retreated back into his box. "He hands out gifts to children that get a certain amount of tickets. The gifts are completely random, and the child can get anything, from a stuffed toy that looks like one of the animatronics to a handheld game with one of the arcade games programmed on it." The group was astonished at this. So far everything in the restaurant was new and exciting. "Now are there any questions?" Naruto asked the group, finally allowing them to speak. "Why did you build this place?" asked someone. "Ah, an easy one," said Naruto with a grin. "I opened this place up so there is a place dedicated to fun and happiness for kids that won him a lot of support from the group." "Is this place safe?" asked Satsuki. "Oh yes, very safe. The building has passed expectations by the Hokage himself, along with health and safety managers." Naruto grinned, leaning against the counter, his hands in his pockets. "The animatronics aren't just for show. They are trained to detect child predators from a mile away, and will send a signal to both me and the Hokage via this like device here." Naruto withdrew his hand, which had a small remote-like device that had a screen and a light. This put the blonde and his new restaurant in the good books of everybody there. "Any more?" he asked, putting the remote back in his pocket. "Yeah, what about the 3rd and 4th floor?" asked Irika. "Well, the 3rd level is a work in progress. I have a plan for it, But I need more info on it before I can start construction on it, said Naruto. The 4th floor is my apartment building where I, along with whoever is close to me, will live. Now if there aren't any more questions, nobody said anything, then let's head on downstairs for lunch. Oh, and everything is on the house for today. This caused a cheer to go through the crowd. 30 minutes later we find everybody downstairs seated at tables with menus in hand. The atmosphere was tense at first, as some doubts still lingered in the minds of the villagers, but soon they relaxed enough to at least try some of the food on the menu. I'll have a bacon burger please, Naruto heard, as he passed by one of the tables. Do you serve alcohol? Asked a man. Yes we do sir, although we have a 1-bottle limit for those with their family. And 2 if you're on your own, answered by a clone wearing its Freddy clothes, a notepad in hand, and a pencil in the other. Eventually the boy found himself at 2 tables pushed together so all the blonde's special guests sat at. He smiled well, pulling out the chair next to Hataru, and taking a seat. Geez Naruto, this place is great, said Ino, taking a bite of one of the pizzas that was in the middle of them all. The food is absolutely delicious. I agree with Keiko, sipping on her cool drink, although I wonder, why open a restaurant? She asked, looking at her student. I'll answer that question if you answer mine, said Naruto, as he looked over Hataru's shoulder, and watched her play the handheld game that depicted Foxy on a pirate ship battling other pirate ships. Go ahead, said Keiko, taking one more sip then putting her glass down. Why do we have 2 senseis when the standard allocation is 1 sensei per team? Asked Naruto, directing his attention to the woman who sighed softly, and pushed her glass to the side. That is because I wanted to take on your team, as my Genin squad. No glamorous reason, plain and simple, said Keiko. After the incident I wanted to honor Mizuki's last request, to see you become stronger. She said, smiling at Naruto, who felt a pang in his heart, and gave a genuine smile. Thanks Keiko-sensei. But it doesn't really answer my question, said Naruto, as Kakashi cut in. Well, you see, I wanted to take on you guys by myself, but when Keiko said she wanted to, as well, the Hokage thought it beneficial to allow both of us to teach you guys. Mostly due to the fact that Keiko can teach Ino and Satsuki better than I can, since her skills can benefit them both. Mine can help you, and Satsuki. More so you than Satsuki. The 3 genin looked confused. Naruto, your chakra capacity is enlarged. They turned their heads towards the Hokage, who had a glass of what next to him. If we can capitalize on this, then you can become a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. So what you're telling me is that Kakashi will focus solely on me? Asked Naruto with a frown on his face, surprising the 2, and, essentially, yes, said the 3rd, his face unchanged by the question. Then I quit, and the table fell into silence, the sounds of the other people eating in the background being the only noise. Everybody looked shocked save for Hataru, who was too invested in her game to notice the tense atmosphere. What do you mean you'll quit? Ino asked in utter shock. Exactly what I said. If the focus is solely placed upon me, then I don't want to be part of this team. But I still don't get it. Listen, Ino, Naruto said, getting serious. I don't want to be on a team where a teacher will only focus on one student when they took on the responsibility to teach a team. Naruto got up again. I won't be the cause of my teammates dying in battle because our teacher, both, aren't give their 100% attention to all of us. Very noble of you, Naruto, said Irika, smiling at Naruto. I doubt that Kakashi and Keiko would forego your teammates to teach you alone. Right you are, Irika. Here in Konoha we value teamwork above everything else, said a smiling Sarutobi. I wanted to see how Naruto would react to that. Good job, Keiko. Kakashi. The 2 smiled at the 3rd. They heard the sounds of a chair being moved, and saw Satsuki standing up with her hair covering her bangs covering her eyes. Satsuki? Called Naruto, looking at the girl, who flinched at being addressed. I need to go to the bathroom. The girl quickly made her way to the toilet, leaving the others confused save for the Hokage. What was that about? Said Naruto, seeing the girl enter the toilet. Ino took the last bite of her pizza, and sucked her index finger to get the grease off. She watched the girl walk off with a neutral expression on her face. I'll go talk to her, said the blonde girl, getting up, and flashing Naruto a reassuring smile. I'll be taking my leave to Naruto, said the 3rd, finishing his water off, and walking out of the establishment. The last people at the table were left in awkward silence, watching the women's toilet bathroom door. Hey, Mr. Naruto looked down, seeing a 3-year-old girl tugging on his jacket, a Freddy teddy under her arm. The girl looked kind of embarrassed and scared. Yes, cutie? Said Naruto, crouching down to get eye level with the girl, who clutched her teddy closer to her, and made circles on the floor with her foot. Could you turn Freddy and his friends on? She asked, giving him a nervous smile. Naruto clapped his forehead, and smiled at the girl with a sheepish look on his face. I totally forgot. Thanks to what Naruto said, he stood up straight again. Run along to your parents, and watch the stage. The girl nodded vigorously with a big smile on her face. She hugged Naruto's leg, and then ran off to her parents with a blush on her face. Naruto made his way to the stage, and climbed the stairs that were on the side. Everybody stopped what they were doing and focused their attention on the stage. More specifically on the blonde restaurant owner. Said boy went behind the curtain out of view of the customers. They all waited for 2 minutes, then jumped in shock when Freddy lifted his head up, then opened his eyes, showing the blue eyes he had. The animatronic faced the public and held his mic to his mouth. "Hello, my name is Freddy Fazbear," said the animatronic bear. He looked to his left. "And these are my 2 friends." Chica the yellow chicken lifted her head and opened her eyes. "Hello everybody, my name is Chica the chicken, and this is my little friend Cupcake." She moved her hand up and held the pink cupcake. "Let's eat. And on this side is my other friend Bonnie." Freddy turned to his right. "Hey everybody, my name Bonnie the bunny," said the bunny, giving his guitar a strum. "Now that you have met the band, let's play some music," said Freddy, as the 3 started singing / playing a song. Little children had run up to the stage and were cheering on the dancing and singing animatronics. If you're wondering what they look like when they move about, check out 5 Nights at Freddy's song, FNAF SFM, Ocular Remix, by Miss Fro SFM on YouTube. Naruto smiled at the screaming children. He spotted Hataru standing in the front of the children and screaming her head off. He chuckled at seeing his daughter so animated. "Excuse me," someone tapped him on the shoulder to get his attention. When the blonde turned around, he saw a woman with short brown hair, someone who had denied him access to a clothing store once. "Yes, ma'am?" Naruto said, smiling at the woman. "I don't know if you remember me," the woman said, gulping. "I do." Say Naruto did not lose his smile, making the woman visibly flinch, which the blonde took notice of, but didn't say anything. I know I don't have any right asking this of you, but well, this is so hard." The woman looked down. "Well, you see, my son just turned 7 yesterday, and I wanted to know if that is to say." The woman lifted her gaze from the floor to see the sincere smile on the boy's face. "You want Freddy's to host a party for your son?" he asked, making the woman slowly nod her head. "Yes, you see, he likes pirates, and there aren't many, if any, places in the village that provide children parties, let alone themed parties." The woman bowed deeply to the blonde, who blinked in surprise. "I would be forever in your debt if you allowed my son to have a party here. If you want, I will leave him here if you don't want me around." There was a tense moment where the only thing the 2 could hear was the song of the animatronics and the screaming children. The woman tensed and prepared herself for the harsh rejection from the boy in front of her. Had it been her in his shoes, she'd probably gloat, then flat out reject the person. She heard chuckling and looked up to see Naruto chuckling softly with his arms crossed. "Don't bow to me," he said, and took a notepad from a passing clone. "And we'd be happy to host your son's birthday party." The woman was floored at the declaration, not able to believe what the blonde had just said. Really?" she asked with a hope present on her face. "You'll let my son have his party here?" "Of course, this place is dedicated to the entertainment of children. If a kid wants to have a party here, we won't turn them away no matter who they are." The woman had some tears in the corners of her eyes. "Oh, thank you, she said, clasping the boy's hands in hers. "How much do I have to pay?" "I don't have a lot of money at the moment, since my business has hit a snag in its profits. But I will work off the money owed if I can't pay for it," the woman said, reaching into her purse and grabbing a checkbook. "How about we make it?" The blonde tapped his chin and thought 1,500 yen. The woman dropped her checkbook in shock, with wide eyes staring at the blonde, who didn't lose his grin. "You can't be serious," she said with her hands over her mouth. "Nope, I'm serious." The blonde's grin faded. "Unless that's too much? If it is, I can lower the price for you." "No, it's fine. I'm just shocked that you'd ask for so little," she said through the hands. "Why not?" the blonde said with a shrug. "You can't put a huge price on a child's happiness. When I was a kid, I dreamed of having a birthday party, so I can't deny another child that opportunity." "But don't you have to pay for expenses?" she asked, now very ashamed of her actions in the past. "Expenses?" the boy laughed at first. "I basically built this place by myself. I don't need to pay for building expenses since I have an effective building trick that doesn't need a lot of labor or building materials. Secondly, I have quite a large sum of money that I've saved up since I started getting the orphan's allowance. I couldn't really buy food as a kid, so I saved up most of my money, about 95% of it." The woman's mouth dropped open in shock. This boy had so much money. "And lastly, I'm a ninja, so I will eventually take high-paying missions, so this restaurant is a side job. The only thing that needs payments is ingredients, and maybe in the future employees." Naruto smiled. "But enough about me, let's get back to business. When would you like us to host his party?" he asked, snapping the woman out of her dazed state. "Oh, yes. Is Saturday alright?" she asked. "Saturday is fine. How does 12 till 3 sound?" Naruto asked to write down on his notepad. "If it's not too much trouble, can I book for 12 till 4:30? "Sure, not a problem. Saturday, 12 till 4:30. And how much children will be present at this party?" "Let's see." The woman mentally counted in her head about 25 children. 25 kids done. Naruto grinned at the woman. "May I get your son's name, so I can program it in Foxy's programming. Oh yes, his name is Takashi Naruto. And your name is Madam? It's Hiroko Kano, the woman said, holding her hand out to the blonde who shook her hand. Well, it's nice to meet you on better terms, Hiroko-san, Naruto said, putting the notepad away. Same to you, Naruto-san. I'm sorry about any transgressions that occurred between us in the past. You have really changed my perspective about you, said Hiroko. It's water under the bridge, said Naruto, giving her a dismissive hand gesture. I'll be seeing you and your son on Saturday at 12. Me too? She asked, shocked. Of course, Naruto said, aghast. I can't deny a mother the chance at seeing her child happy on his birthday. Next thing, the blonde found himself wrapped up in a hug by a weeping woman. The blonde blinked in shock at Hiroko's actions. Thank you, she whispered, as Naruto patted her back. What was that about? Asked Ino when Naruto got back to their table. The girl was stirring the ice cubes of the drink she ordered. It was only the blonde girl sitting at the table now. Nothing much, she just wanted to know if I could host a party here for her son, said Naruto, sitting across from the girl. Where are the others? Kakashi-sensei said he had a book to go by. Keiko-sensei said she was tired and wanted to go lay down, so Irika-sensei took her home. And Satsuki just left not a few minutes ago, said Ino, taking a sip of her drink, which the blonde saw was a margarita. Do you drink? Not really, my daddy took me out for drinks after I graduated. I'm not an alcoholic, I just drink every now and again. Naruto nodded his head, as he sent a mental message to any clone close to him to bring him a bottle of sake. So what's up with Satsuki-chan? He asked after the clone brought him the bottle of sake and something to drink from. Oh, just girl things, said Ino, taking another sip of her drink. 10 minutes ago, Satsuki stood in front of the big mirror that was over the sink in the toilet of the restaurant. Some droplets of water dropped from her face, splashing her face when she came in. Why'd I get so angry, she thought. The Uchiha had felt uncontrollable anger when the Hokage said the blonde boy was stronger than her and Ino. She felt her anger directed not just at the blonde, but at the Hokage, her senseis. Hell, the girl was angry at herself as well. But the girl couldn't understand why she felt like this. She looked at the door from the mirror when it opened to reveal Ino walking in. Neither girl said a word, as the blonde of the duo walked over to the sink next to Satsuki and washed her hands. I know you didn't just come to wash your hands, Satsuki finally said after the pregnant silence. Ino giggled softly, reaching for the towel to wipe her hands dry. Nothing escapes the great eyes of the Uchiha, she said, placing the towel back, and leaned against the sink with her back facing the mirror. Satsuki kept staring at herself in the mirror. You know, the Uchiha heiress looked at the blonde from the corner of her eye. I never really liked you. This got the black-haired girl's attention, but didn't show it. Oh, never noticed since you and that gaggle of things kept chasing after a fake, said Satsuki sarcastically. Oh, I knew that really caught Uchiha's attention, making her look at Ino in shock. Shocked? Well, you should be, since I portrayed myself as a fangirl, but I had some talent, just chose not to show it. Too much of an effort. Ino giggled. In fact, I like another boy, though he doesn't know about it. Guy probably wouldn't know it if I slapped him in the face with a sign that read I like you. The two fell into another period of silence, as Satsuki studied the girl next to her. How does this concern me? Asked Satsuki, turning back to the mirror. This concerns you a hell of a lot, Ino whispered just above the songs being sung outside. Oh yeah? How? Satsuki asked sarcastically. Because you're standing in the way of me and my dream. The next thing Satsuki knew, she was spun around, and Ino was in her face, with a deep frown on her face, and her hands gripping the girl's collar. My dream is for the guy to love me back, and you threw a wrench in the works. The Uchiha was shocked at this side of her teammate. The raw emotions playing across in Ino's eyes was slightly scary. I know why you're angry, I can see it in your eyes. Uchiha Ino hissed. I may not like you, but if Naruto's willing to put up with your superior bitch attitude, then I will try. As well, the blonde girl tightened her grip on Satsuki's collar. But I swear if you don't change your attitude soon, I'll change it for you. You're not better than everybody just because you got perfect marks in the academy. I know you don't show it in your actions, but I can see it clearly in your eyes. And I'll be damned if you get him killed for your bitching ass. Ino let the girl go with a slight shove. Satsuki steadied herself on the sink, then got over her shock and glared at Ino. Remember what I said, Uchiha, said Ino, walking towards the door. I'll play nice for now, but mark my words. Pull some bullshit like you did out there, getting angry over petty things, especially things like that, and I'll make sure your life is a living hell. With that said, the girl left the bathroom, and slamming the door behind her. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.